Chapter 2168. A few pairs of eyes shot towards Yiqing Luo in unison. The person whom Upper Profound Palace was looking for, was Yiqing Luo? How did the people from Upper Profound Palace know that Yiqing Luo was returning to the academy today? Why did he feel that it wasn't a good thing for the people from Upper Profound Palace to meet Yiqing Luo? Student Yiqing Luo. If you hear me, open the door immediately. The envoys of the Hai Shen Palace do not have the habit of waiting for people. Yun Xiang knocked on the door with a displeased expression. He could clearly sense the presence of people in the dormitory, but no one inside responded to him. Yun Xiang suppressed his anger and growled once again, "Student Yiqing Luo, if you don't come out, then don't blame this elder for forcing my way in." There was still no response from inside the house. Yun Xiang was so angry that his face turned green, and he immediately rushed to the dormitory door. Creak. The door opened. Yun Xiang lost his footing and staggered into the dormitory. His body bumped into a wooden table at the side before he managed to stabilize himself. Outside the dormitory, the students snickered softly. Yun Xiang was angry and annoyed. He steadied himself and glared at the few people standing at the door. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a teasing arc, her long and narrow eyes curved into a smile which didn't look like a smile. The glint in her eyes seemed to be ridiculing him. Whereas Lu Xiaoyu tilted her head as she stood by Yiqing Luo's side, blinking her eyes with an innocent look which almost made Yun Xiang mad. Xiao Jin, Yen Xiao Yi and Tong Ziqing crossed their arms in front of their chests, looking at him calmly. This group of students. He was clearly doing it on purpose to embarrass him. She was purposely making a fool out of him. Yiqing Luo. Yun Xiang angrily rebuked. Elder Yun Xiang, where is the envoy from Upper Profound Palace waiting for me? Yiqing Luo's light voice directly interrupted Yun Xiang. Yun Xiang's words faltered. He clenched his fists tightly under his sleeves. Fine. Let Yiqing Luo be complacent for a while. As long as one was targeted by the High Mystic Hall, their ending would not be pretty. Just from the way the Profound Hall's emissary mentioned Yiqing Luo's attitude was enough to tell. For the Upper Profound Hall's envoy to look for Yiqing Luo, it definitely wasn't a good thing. If they could borrow the Profound Palace's hands to get rid of Yiqing Luo, in this heavenly academy, no one would dare to defy their elders. Yiqing Luo could see the murderous intent and evil thoughts flowing in Yun Xiang's eyes clearly. She scoffed and curled her lips disapprovingly. Elder Yun Xiang, didn't you say that the messenger doesn't have the patience to wait for people? Aren't you going to lead the way? Yun Xiang glanced at her coldly. Student Yiqing Luo, your arrogant attitude can be used in front of this elder, but in front of the Upper Profound Hall's envoy, you'd better restrain yourself. Yiqing Luo gave a slight smile as she didn't mind. Don't think that this elder is scaring you. The last time the emissary from the Upper Shen Palace appeared in the academy was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they took away a person from the academy. That person has never appeared in the academy since then. Yun Xiang purposely suppressed his voice to create a strange atmosphere. Unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo only raised her brows. Speaking of which, are there not many missing people in the Heavenly Academy? Yun Xiang's expression turned steely green. Yiqing Luo smiled and led the few of them out of the dormitory. Yun Xiang was behind him with a ferocious expression. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down, until the anger in his heart dissipated. He then walked out of the dormitory. Yiqing Luo and the others were already a distance away. Qing Luo, Elder Yun Xiang's words don't sound fake. Heavenly Profound Palace's envoy is looking for you, surely it can't be that. They want to take you away, right? Chapter 2169. When Xiao Jin and the others heard this, the expressions on their faces instantly became grave as well. According to Lu Xiaoyu's speculation, the Upper Shen Hall should have an extremely high standing in this academy. Moreover, it was a symbolic existence. If what Yun Xiang said wasn't true, then he wouldn't be able to do anything. That could be considered as Yun Xiang slandering Upper Shen Palace. Yun Xiang probably didn't have the guts. Therefore, it was highly possible that the news of the envoy from the Upper Shen Palace taking away someone from the academy was true. Yen Xiaoyi quickly walked in front of Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, why don't we go over to take a look at what's going on? If there's no danger, then we'll call you over? Yiqing Luo had just returned to the academy and met with such a matter. The Upper Mystical Hall was too mysterious. Although Yiqing Luo was very powerful now. But against those mysterious people who lived in the Ancestral Hall, it was too strange. Since the envoy from the Upper Shen Palace has specifically asked for me, what if he takes his anger out on you guys if I don't go? Yiqing Luo raised her hand and cupped Yan Xiaoyi's face. That messenger is on the field, and with so many students and elders watching, the messenger can't do anything to me. What's more, it might not be a bad thing for the emissary to summon me. Maybe he wants to reward me? Reward? Impossible. Everyone shook their heads simultaneously. Yiqing Luo's smile gradually deepened as her fingers couldn't help but pinch Yan Xiaoyi's face. No one knows what exactly is going on, so we'll know when we go over and take a look. Don't think so much. Yan Xiaoyi glared at her with her beautiful eyes and grabbed her hands away. I'm not a cat, not a shadow, don't pinch my face. Yiqing Luo withdrew her hand and took a look at Tong Ziqing before her gaze finally fell onto Yan Xiaoyi. After staring for a while, Yiqing Luo decisively stretched out her devil's claw towards Yan Xiaoyi's face. You and Ziqing are standing together, your face is more suitable to pinch. Her hand has yet to touch Yan Xiaoyi. He was intercepted by Qiao Jin halfway. Qiao Jin bore that unprepossessing face as he smiled at Yiqing Luo. Stop pinching my wife, come pinch me, come pinch me. Saying that, he even placed his face in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo shot a disdainful glance at his ordinary face. Qiao Jin's skin was very delicate and looked very smooth. However, when his facial features were put together, he looked extremely ordinary. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand and rolled her eyes as she snorted. Are you trying to take revenge on me by showing off your dog food? I won't pinch you. If I pinch your face off, won't you chase after me for 10 streets? Qiao Jin's cheeky smile froze. There was a trace of shock in his deep eyes. Very quickly he regained his senses and leaned his head towards Yan Xiaoyi's shoulder, acting like a little wife. Wife, Qing Luo despises me. Bah. Yan Xiaoyi pushed his head. Who's your wife? Don't call me that. But Qiao Jin refused to let go of Yan Xiaoyi. A pair of enemies began to love and kill each other again. As for Yiqing Luo's earlier sentence of human face, these 3 words, he didn't seem to take it to heart. When Yunxiang caught up to them, he saw such a leisurely and contented atmosphere. His beard was blown away by the anger that came out of his nostrils. But this time he wisely chose to keep his mouth shut. If they were to bicker, he wasn't a match for this bunch of sluts. When he met the Upper Profound Palace's envoy, he would like to see how this bunch of sluts could still be so insolent. Along the way they were fooling around. The anxiousness from before had all dissipated cleanly. Chapter 2170. Xiaoyi? What's wrong with your tummy? Did you eat something earlier? Qiao Jin heard Yan Xiaoyi crying out in pain and immediately held onto her shoulders anxiously, looking at her tummy worriedly. Yan Xiaoyi leaned into Qiao Jin's arms as her forehead broke out in cold sweat from the pain. I don't know, slut Jin, carry me to the latrine, I can't take it anymore. His beloved little woman was in such pain. How could Qiao Jin see anyone else? He immediately carried Yan Xiaoyi horizontally and like the wind, he dashed towards the direction of the latrine. If it wasn't for the Academy's rule that they were not allowed to use profound energy, Qiao Jin couldn't wait to inject his profound energy into his legs and dash towards the latrine. Seeing Qiao Jin's figure disappear in a blink of an eye, Yunxiang's expression was extremely ugly. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose slightly as she looked at Yunxiang. Elder Yunxiang, please don't mind it. You also know that young people are like this when they are passionately in love. Her words paused and she seemed to have said something wrong as she covered her mouth and turned her head away. I've forgotten that Elder Yunxiang has never tasted the feeling of passionately in love, so naturally you won't understand the feelings of these young people. Yunxiang's expression turned even uglier. She had successfully caused trouble for Yunxiang. Yiqing Luo happily held onto Tong Ziqing as she walked leisurely into the Academy's training field. Yiqing Luo was stuck in the middle of the training field at one glance as 5 solemn and respectful figures stood there. Standing right in front was an elderly dressed in a bronze-green brocade robe. The elderly's figure was extremely skinny with white sideburns and his face was as skinny as a match, giving off an extremely repulsive feeling. Especially those 2 eyes which were sunken deeply, which made Yiqing Luo inexplicably think of a skeleton in human skin. This elderly wasn't simple. The aura emitted from his body made one shudder. Behind the elderly stood a row of men dressed in dark green robes. Their figures were tall and sturdy and should be that elderly's bodyguards. In a pile of greenish white, suddenly 5 different shades of deep green appeared. Yiqing Luo expressed vicious eyes. The director and a few elders stood by the side with a fawning smile on their faces. I've not expected that after so many years, Sir Envoy has once again descended upon Heavenly Academy, its Heavenly Academy's honor. The old man in the lead snorted coldly without any expression in his eyes. A guard behind him stepped forward, cupped his fists and bowed respectfully to the dean. Dean, please don't stand on ceremony. Just bring our hall master's men over. The guard's actions were respectful, but his expression and tone were clearly threatening. Director felt a chill down his spine as the fawning smile on his face turned stiff. Yes, Elder Yun Xiang has already gone to call for her. Student Yi Qing Luo will be here very soon. He paused and carefully looked at the elderly man's expression as he probed. Sir Envoy, I wonder what's the reason why Hall Master is looking for student Yi Qing Luo? The old man narrowed his malicious eyes and glanced at the dean in disdain. His gaze was as if he was looking at an ant. Do you think that you can understand the thoughts of Lord Hall Master? Yes. I've overstepped my boundaries. The dean bowed his head and admitted defeat. The elders behind him were also sweating profusely as they looked around. Why hasn't Yun Xiang brought him over yet? The surrounding students were all standing by the side to spectate, pointing and discussing the current situation. They were all guessing what kind of place this heavenly hall was. And who was the hall master? Why were they looking for student Yi Qing Luo? From this stance, apparently it wasn't anything good. Yet the director was trying to please these people. Chapter 2171. Sir Envoy, student Yi Qing Luo is a student of our Heavenly Academy. As an elder of the Academy, we have the right to know why the Profound Palace is looking for student Yi Qing Luo. Yun Duan, who was standing behind the dean, smiled faintly. His smile was gentle and warm. There wasn't any hint of contradiction. But the expression on the face of the Profound Palace's envoy turned gloomy. That pair of bright eyes swept coldly towards Yun Duan. The dean's face turned pale as he glared fiercely at Yun Duan, signaling him to shut up. But Yun Duan's expression didn't change as he smiled gently. Sir Envoy, do you think there's anything wrong with what I said? The envoy gritted his teeth gloomily. Elder Yun Duan is wholeheartedly thinking for the student. There's nothing wrong with what Elder Yun Duan said. These words were said through gritted teeth. The dean's face turned pale as he turned his head and stared at Yun Duan. Yun Duan didn't seem to feel the threat and warning from the envoy. He nodded slightly and continued with a smile. Sir Envoy also feels that what I said is right. Then can I ask the Sir Envoy to tell me why you want to see student Yi Qing Luo? Elder Yun Duan. The respectful guard behind the envoy bellowed angrily. The envoy raised his hand and stopped the guard. Then he slowly raised his head with a sinister look. I don't know the specific reason why the Lord wants to see student Yi Qing Luo. Yun Duan frowned slightly. Just as she was about to say something, the director had already cut in. No matter what the reason is, Hall Master wants to meet student Yi Qing Luo, that is student Yi Qing Luo's honor and also our Heavenly Academy's honor. Student Yi Qing Luo should be grateful. The dean's flattering words didn't ease the envoy's expression. The envoy snorted coldly. The Lord had not asked about the Heavenly Academy for a few years, and now a small elder can climb over your head. This has really broadened my knowledge. The dean lowered his head with an ugly expression. A sense of resentment towards Yun Duan arose from the bottom of his heart. The envoy was obviously dissatisfied with Yun Duan. These words were also telling him that if he wanted the Profound Palace to support the Heavenly Academy, this Yun Duan must not stay. The envoy glanced at the dean and snorted, You haven't brought the person? You're such a waste, you even need to invite a student 3 or 4 times. The dean felt extremely ashamed. The surrounding students began to gesticulate and discuss even louder. The principal's face turned red, and his hands were clenched so tightly that veins popped up on his fists. Yunduan's brows furrowed even more. He looked at the gloomy emissaries and guards in front of him, and then at the dean's embarrassed expression. His eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. The attitude of the Upper Shen Palace. Apparently looking for Yi Qing Luo was definitely not a good thing. He had just left for 3 Springs Sect to fetch Yi Qing Luo back to the academy. Someone from the Upper Mystic Hall came. Was this really just a coincidence? If the Upper Profound Palace insisted on bringing Yi Qing Luo away forcefully, even if he risked his position as the Grand Elder, he would definitely ensure Yi Qing Luo's safety. After all, Yi Qing Luo was now the living signboard of the Heavenly Academy. She was the person whom the General Hospital had repeatedly urged them to protect. He was the savior of the Western continent. He was the idol of the Nirvana realm. If something were to happen to Yi Qing Luo in the Heavenly Academy, Those various powerhouses which had been saved by Yiqing Luo would absolutely not take it lying down. Just as the atmosphere was strangely gloomy, suddenly there was an explosion of exclamation from the surrounding students. Chapter 2172. Yiqing Luo? When the students heard this, they immediately turned their heads in the direction of the voice. The dean and a few elders also turned around. Sure enough, he saw Yiqing Luo walking over from the other side of the training ground. Behind Yiqing Luo, there was only Tong Ziqing alone. The students looked at each other. Why didn't she bring along all the students from the devil class? The more people there are, the stronger the aura. She probably doesn't know that the Hai Shen Palace is here to cause trouble. Then what should we do? Should we help student Yiqing Luo to support her? Let's not do it. High Profound Palace is obviously not to be trifled with. If we help student Yiqing Luo, what if High Profound Palace takes their anger out on us? But student Yiqing Luo has helped us so much. She even saved the West Continent. Is it really all right for us to sit back and do nothing? If you want to interfere, you can do it yourselves. I'm not going to interfere. When the students saw Yiqing Luo, they started to discuss in low voices. When the emissary heard the words of the surrounding students, a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. He gave a cold smile as his gaze fixed onto Yiqing Luo. Long before they came, they had heard of Yiqing Luo's beauty, but he saw it with his own eyes. Especially in this place, which was filled with greenish-white uniforms, the academy students were extremely excited. The girl's flame-like red dress was extremely eye-catching. The young girl's movements were like flowing flames. There were very few people who could make red look so alluring. Sir Envoy, this is the Yiqing Luo whom you're looking for. I've brought her over. When Yun Xiang saw the envoy, he immediately went forward and smiled. As he pointed at Yiqing Luo, he couldn't help but laugh coldly in his heart. In this heavenly academy, Yiqing Luo, this wretched lass who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, if she offended the Upper Profound Palace's envoy, he wanted to see who else could save her. The envoy didn't even bother to take a look at Yun Xiang as his gaze was fixed on Yiqing Luo without blinking. The expression on his face was as cold as ice. Yun Xiang twitched his mouth awkwardly and retreated to Yun Yun's side. The atmosphere was so tense that it was a little strange. Until Yiqing Luo walked to the side of the director and stopped in her tracks. Director seemed to have found an opportunity to break the silence as he grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist and pulled her towards the direction of the envoy. Sir Envoy, this is Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't struggle as she allowed the director to pull her in front of the envoy. She looked up and met the messenger's eyes at close range. Shortly after, her pink lips curled up and her eyes shimmered. Are you the messenger from the Upper Shen Palace? I wonder why the emissary came out of the ancestral hall to look for me. The malice in the emissary's eyes deepened. He looked at the girl in front of him without blinking. He didn't find any trace of fear in the girl's eyes. Her tone was leisurely and her expression was calm. He couldn't be any more relaxed. The messenger was almost certain. This young girl did not fear them at all. Yiqing Luo said the two words, ancestral hall. They were clearly aware of the usefulness of their heavenly hall to the heavenly academy. However, she was still fearless towards them. A hint of interest and coldness rose in the emissary's eyes. The dean kept staring at the messenger's expression. Seeing the emissary's arrogance lowering, he immediately shouted angrily, presumptuous. Yiqing Luo, do you know who this is? How dare you use this kind of attitude to speak to the Sir Envoy? Chapter 2173. Yiqing Luo's words could be said to have totally disregarded the director's face. She had returned to the academy this time. She had no intention to maintain a friendly exchange with the director. Directly shed all pretenses and start a war. Being humiliated by a student, the director's face turned green with anger. Yiqing Luo. You. How dare you disrespect your teacher? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she gave a glance at the director with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then, as though she couldn't see him, her vision fell back onto the envoy. You couldn't wait to invite me over just to look at me affectionately? Envoy. Guard. The surrounding students. This young lady was extraordinary. Totally not following the script. Which young lady would say the words affectionate to an old man? Wasn't she afraid of ruining her own reputation? Yiqing Luo. You don't know what's good for you. The director frowned as he fiercely pinched Yiqing Luo's wrist again. This time his hand grabbed empty air. Yiqing Luo took a step back as her long and narrow eyes curved with a calm smile. Director, can you not disturb me talking to the envoy? You are wasting the envoy's time and also wasting my time and even more so wasting the student's time. She paused slightly as her smile changed and became dazzling. As the director of the academy, don't you feel guilty for wasting everyone's time? The director was speechless. His face flushed red, sometimes black, sometimes ashen. His facial features had turned extremely sinister. Director. Yun Duan immediately went forward, supporting the director's trembling body. The envoy is still here, don't be too angry. The director's body was still trembling with Yun Duan's support. When he heard Yun Duan's words, his sinister expression stiffened. Sir Envoy, please don't be calculative with this little slut. The director tried hard to stabilize his emotions as he pushed Yun Duan away, and tried his best to smile in the direction of the envoy. This Yiqing Luo has always been relying on her outstanding innate talent, and behind her. He paused as he carefully looked at the envoy's expression. The envoy's expression was indifferent as his gaze was malicious, not knowing what he was thinking. The dean decided to cover up the matter about the overlord. If the Upper Profound Palace knew that Yiqing Luo's backing was the overlord, they wouldn't dare to offend the overlord and let Yiqing Luo off easily. As the dean, wasn't he too useless? He was thinking of making use of the Profound Hall to get rid of Yiqing Luo, this thorn in his side. The headmaster continued, relying on the fact that she has the backing of a few teachers in the academy, she has been acting like a tyrant in the academy. Not long ago he was lucky enough to attract the heavenly axiom historian of the upper realm, and conveniently settled a great war in the West Continent. Now, she really regarded herself as the savior of the world and did not put anyone in her eyes. The dean's words were so shameless that the surrounding students' respect and goodwill for the dean plummeted. Was this really something a dean of an academy should say? It was simply too shameless. It was too outrageous, wasn't it? To actually distort black and white like this. Some students wanted to retort. But when he saw the warning look in Yin Xiang's eyes, the students shut their mouths again. No matter how indignant they felt in their hearts. But they were after all students of the Heavenly Academy. They still wanted to mingle in the Heavenly Academy. And to graduate from the Heavenly Academy. Everyone was selfish. How could they possibly destroy their own future just because of a Yiqing Luo? Chapter 2174. Heavenly Way Historian? The envoy squinted his sinister eyes as a strange expression surfaced on his bony face. Seeing the envoy's reaction, the director thought that he had made up Yiqing Luo's words, giving the envoy an excuse to take action against her, so he started to speak even more energetically. Right, it's Heavenly Way Historian. She doesn't have anything else but her luck is good. The moment Heavenly Way Historian came, she brought away a bunch of powerhouses who wanted to invade the West Continent. I don't know why, but this credit mysteriously fell onto her head. The director's face was filled with anger. She's just a 15-year-old young lady, becoming the female hero who saved the West Continent. This kind of great glory, how would she know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is? The envoy nodded his head thoughtfully. So it's like this. The director stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo as he gritted his teeth. Sir Envoy, about this little slut's matter, I'll have to trouble you to inform Sir Hall Master. If Sir Hall Master wants to bring her away, feel free to do so. The envoy's sinister gaze swept past the director. The director's back instantly turned cold. His hands clenched tightly as he lowered his head apprehensively, not daring to say another word. The envoy shifted his line of sight towards Yiqing Luo. His shriveled lips twitched. Student Yiqing Luo doesn't have anything to explain or refute? Lazy. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyelids as she didn't think much of it. Moreover, Heavenly Profound Palace doesn't have the energy to bother about the Academy's trivial matters. Ah. A shriveled, ear-piercing laughter was emitted from the envoy's mouth. His eyes were filled with admiration. Student Yiqing Luo, what you said, this envoy really has no way to refute. In other words, he had admitted what Yiqing Luo had said. They were from Heavenly Profound Palace and didn't have the leisure to bother about the Academy's trivial matters. The director was stunned by the envoy's laughter and the words he said at the back. What was going on? Why did the envoy's attitude suddenly change? He had thrown away his pride and said so much, didn't the envoy hear it? Sir Envoy, you must not be cheated by her. The director spoke urgently. He hadn't even finished his words. He was interrupted by the emissary. Heavenly Dean, do you really take me for a fool to play tricks in front of me? Despite being the esteemed principal of the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy, you still dare to act so rudely and insult a student in front of so many students. That's a breach of the ethics of a teacher. The dean's face instantly turned pale. His entire body felt cold and his legs went limp. His lips trembled and he wanted to explain. However, after meeting the cold gaze of the emissary, he could not utter a single word. The envoy didn't waste any more time with the director, but directly looked towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, Hall Master would like to see you. Now follow me to the profound hall. The Palace Master of the High Mystic Palace. Why would he want to see a student from such a small class like me? If you can't give me a reasonable reason, how can my brother be at ease to let me go to the upper profound hall? Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. Student Yiqing Luo, this envoy is courteous to you because of your character, which suits my taste. But this doesn't mean that you can be rude to this envoy. The envoy's smile paused slightly as his eyes shot out a threatening glint. Yiqing Luo met his eyes and smiled calmly. Envoy, the reason why I'm saying so much to you is because you're the envoy. But this doesn't mean that you can order me around. She sensed a different aura from the envoy, an aura which didn't belong to Nirvana realm. Chapter 2175. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Academy had such a hidden force. What made Yiqing Luo puzzled was, since the Heavenly Academy already had the power of the Heavenly Palace, why did the Dean choose to work with the Dark Forces and become their dog? Right now, it was impossible for Yiqing Luo to fall into the Upper Profound Palace's trap so easily. An aura that did not belong to the Nirvana realm. She had to be careful. Although the tranquil bead was already in her hands. However, unless there was no other choice. If he could keep a trump card, he would do his best to keep it. This trump card could possibly save his life. Student Yiqing Luo, since you're so uncooperative, then don't blame me for using other methods to invite you over. The envoy didn't fly into a rage as he shot a look behind him. Be gentler with your actions, don't hurt student Yiqing Luo. The four guards immediately stepped forward and walked towards Yiqing Luo. When they got close to Yiqing Luo, the group of students who had gathered around to watch the fun retreated one after another. He was afraid that this matter would implicate him. The guard cupped his fists respectfully. Student Yiqing Luo, please don't take offense. Saying that, his movements were as swift as lightning as he grabbed towards Yiqing Luo. Although the emissary had ordered the guards to take action. But anyone with a discerning eye could tell. The envoy didn't have any intention to harm Yiqing Luo. But looking at the emissary's firm and unyielding attitude, they were a little confused. Did Upper Profound Palace's people have ill intentions for Yiqing Luo, or was it purely to look for her? The strength of the four guards was not weak, they were all around the 8th grade of the Earth Profound Realm. The four of them struck at the same time and instantly sealed off Yiqing Luo's escape route. And it didn't matter which angle Yiqing Luo hid to. Yiqing Luo would be caught. This point Yiqing Luo naturally noticed it. She narrowed her eyes and gathered her dark force at her feet. Just as he was about to use his footwork to leave the encirclement of the guards, he suddenly stopped. In the next instant, a deafening roar came from afar. I'd like to see who dares to touch my girl. Accompanied by a loud roar, a thick palm wind directly slapped over. The momentum of the palm was like a rolling wave. In an instant he blocked the attacks of the four guards. The guards were forced to take a few steps back. They looked up. Standing in front of Yiqing Luo was an extremely skinny and weak little figure. That man was an old man. His hair was messy and he wore a white robe of an unknown rank. It was not fastened at the waist and it hung loosely on his body. It was as if he had no other support other than his head. It looked like he was like a crazy old man. The principal, the elders, and the surrounding students stared at the old man, unable to conceal their astonishment. Teacher Guiyu. Wasn't this person Old Man Guiyu? When Yiqing Luo heard that voice, he already knew that Old Man Guiyu had rushed over. She looked at the figure standing in front of her, shielding her behind him. Yiqing Luo felt warm in her heart. Immediately after, a cold and impatient voice came from the crowd of students. What are the people from the Upper Shen Palace up to again? How dare you take my disciple away? The students spontaneously opened up a path. The ghost doctor walked over with an impatient look on her face. In his hands there were 2 medicine bottles. Chapter 2176. One was Guiyu, the other was Ghost Doctor. When the two of them appeared, the faces of the dean and the elders became extremely interesting. When the emissary's gaze swept across the two of them, a hint of surprise surfaced in his eyes. These two people, it gave him a very strange feeling in his heart. He could not put his finger on it, but he was extremely disgusted with these two people. However, he knew that he couldn't afford to offend him. Qing Luo, are you all right? Behind Ghost Doctor, two figures scuttled out as they speedily ran to Yiqing Luo's side, anxiously pulling Yiqing Luo to size her up from head to toe. Xiaoyi. Yiqing Luo looked at the pretty lady in front of her. Yan Xiaoyi's complexion was normal and her movements were agile. She didn't look like she had just now when she was sweating profusely from her stomach pain. Guiyu and the Ghost Doctor appeared. She couldn't help but laugh. This girl, you actually pretended to be sick to find Ghost Dr. Shifu and Teacher Guiyu. If I don't pretend to have a stomachache, how can I escape and call for help? Yan Xiaoyi's face was full of pride. Aren't you especially grateful for my wit? Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at her. Yes, especially quick-witted. The appearance of the Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu made the surrounding students exclaim in surprise. The students had seen Old Man Guiyu before. But every time he saw Guiyu, he would either sleep on his stomach or lying down, and he would sleep in all kinds of positions. As for the Ghost Doctor, that extremely mysterious medicine ancestor-level apothecary, this was an existence that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. It was said that the Ghost Doctor hated troublesome people the most. Other than refining medicine, the Ghost Doctor had no other hobbies. But today he had abandoned his pill refining and specially ran over to save the situation for Yiqing Luo. The students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo were filled with curiosity and shock. The envoy of the Upper Xian Hall did not expect this either. A student had actually alarmed Old Man Guiyu, who had never interfered with the Academy's affairs, and the Ghost Doctor, who was so engrossed in refining medicine that he could not extricate himself from it. No wonder Hall Master wanted to meet Yiqing Luo. Go back and tell your palace master that this girl is under the protection of your father and the Ghost Doctor. You want to take her away? First, ask Laozi and the Ghost Doctor if they're willing. Old Man Guiyu let out a domineering roar with an arrogant attitude. The emissary and the four guards took a few steps back and looked at Old Man Guiyu with fear in their eyes. At the side, the dean was also shocked by the sudden turn of events. Seeing that the emissary really had the intention to retreat, the director panicked. Great Messenger, please don't be angry. Guiyu and the Ghost Doctor have been spoiled by the Academy. That's why they are so rude. Great Messenger, please be magnanimous. Please don't be calculative with us. Then he glared at Old Man Guiyu. Both of you, all of you shut up. What kind of place is the Upper Profound Hall and what kind of place is this? You are still a member of the Heavenly Academy and you have to listen to me, the Dean. The Dean's low reprimand made Old Man Guiyu laugh. The corners of Old Man Guiyu's mouth twitched, a trace of ridicule and self-deprecation appeared on his usually crazed face. Headmaster, you're so impressive. Then, what if I don't become the so-called headmaster now? As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand and tore off the medal on his shoulder that symbolized his status as a headmaster. The Dean's face instantly turned pale. Old Man Guiyu laughed. Sir Headmaster, for so many years, I've really wronged you to put up with this crazy old man. Today this thing I shall return it to you in one piece. Chapter 2177. The strength of the metal was not strong. But the Dean's body instinctively took a few steps back. He was dumbfounded and looked at Guiyu in disbelief. You, Guiyu continued to laugh. I'm just satisfying your selfish desires for so many years. Don't you want me to get out of the Heavenly Academy? I'm fulfilling your wish. The Dean looked at the medal that landed at his feet. The expression on his face gradually became gloomy. Old Man Guiyu's action stunned the onlooking students. Old Man Guiyu in the academy, although he was the most unprofessional teacher. And no student dared to provoke him in the entire academy. But Guiyu was a special existence to the students. Among so many solemn teachers, Yi Zichen could not help but laugh. There was a crazy and bad-tempered teacher. And this crazy teacher would never treat them according to the academy's rules. Although they were afraid of him. However, it allowed them to feel a little more relaxed in their intense study. Guiyu actually wanted to leave the Heavenly Academy? The students had yet to react. The next moment, Ghost Doctor looked at the Dean indifferently and said in a calm voice, "It seems that the Dean also wants to kick me out of the Heavenly Academy. Then, I, Ghost Doctor, will withdraw from the Heavenly Academy from today onwards, and will be stripped of my exclusive pharmacist position." He handed the 2 medicine bottles in his hand to the elder beside him. The elder's hand trembled and did not dare to receive it. Ghost Doctor squinted and said in a low voice, "Ha!" The elder looked at the dean in shock. At this moment the dean was about to explode. It was fine that Guiyu disgraced him in public for a student. After all, that was Guiyu's character. But Ghost Doctor was the exclusive pharmacist whom he had painstakingly invited 3 times. He was the biggest signboard of the Heavenly Academy. He was the symbol of the Heavenly Academy. For so many years, they had cooperated peacefully with each other because Ghost Doctor hated trouble. But now, Ghost Doctor was like Guiyu, withdrawing from the Heavenly Academy for a student? His face was livid, he clenched his fists and said in a tight voice, "Ghost Doctor, for so many years the Academy has provided you with herbs, medicinal ingredients and various advanced equipment for refining medicine. The position of personal apothecary is not something you can get rid of just because you want to." The Ghost Doctor's white brows raised slightly, and the corners of her lips twitched coldly. "Since the dean wants to calculate with me the pill refining equipment that you've provided me for all these years, then I'll also calculate with the dean how many of the pills that I, the Ghost Doctor, have refined over all these years, entered your dean's pocket." The dean's face immediately turned pale. "What nonsense are you spouting? Let's not talk about the pills that went into your pocket. Let's talk about the pills that I threw into the Academy's medicinal storehouse. I'm sure the Academy remembers every single item clearly. We can calculate whether the pills I refined are more valuable, or the medicinal ingredients you provided are more valuable." The Ghost Doctor continued. The dean's face turned completely pale. To be more precise, it was grayish-white. His face was ashen and he couldn't even spit out a retort. Ghost Doctor sneered, "It's the Heavenly Academy's misfortune to have a dean like you." The dean exploded. "Good. Great. You're using this method to humiliate me and force me, aren't you? Good. You're not from the Heavenly Academy now. Men, chase all these outsiders who are causing trouble in the Academy out." The Academy guards looked at each other, at Ghost Doctor and Guiyu, and then at the dean. Chapter 2178. The director was so infuriated that his fingers were trembling. He raised his hand and pointed at the group of guards as he bellowed furiously. "You bunch of trash. Now I can't even order you around anymore, right? Good. Good." He stared fiercely at those elders and those masters who heard the commotion. "Who wants to leave this academy today? Say it out loud and scram. Scram out of the Heavenly Academy." The crowd who were implicated. Was this really the usual dignified and benevolent, although dignified but amiable director? Why was he so harsh today, constantly targeting a student? And even inverted right and wrong, framing Yiqing Luo. Was this really something that the director of the academy could do? Now he even forced Guiyu and Ghost Doctor away. Even the other students and masters were implicated for no reason. The negative impression of the director in the students' hearts was getting deeper and deeper. The director was in a fit of rage, so why would he bother to consider what the students were thinking? No one wants to leave, right? Since no one wants to leave, then all of you chase these people who are not from the Heavenly Academy out. The director waved his arms hysterically. That look made the students extremely disgusted. Guiyu's fiery temper couldn't be controlled as he dashed in front of the director and grabbed his collar. "Heavenly Director! Even if I don't want to be a master, but if I want to stay in the academy, I will stay in the academy. The person who has the least right to chase me away is you." The director's collar was tightened and his face flushed red. He grabbed Guiyu's hand, which had green veins popping out, trying to struggle. But how could his strength match up to Guiyu? "Guiyu, you! How dare you touch me? A bunch of trash, hurry and stop him." The director's neck was tightly bound as he struggled to say every word. The guards looked at each other. Previously they were the ones who asked them to chase Guiyu and Ghost Doctor out. They naturally didn't dare to. But now, their director was being strangled in front of their eyes. No matter what, they had to stop it. The guards cupped their fists towards Guiyu and said in a low voice, "Master Guiyu, sorry to offend you." Saying that, a group of people rushed forward to save the director. They didn't dare to touch Guiyu. Naturally, he was no match for Old Man Guiyu's hot temper. Old Man Guiyu did not intend to let the dean go so easily. He grabbed the dean's neck with his 5 fingers and threw him towards the direction of the guards. The headmaster felt as though his throat was about to be broken when he was suddenly flung around by the neck. The guards scrambled to catch the dean. The dean leaned on them and coughed. He was in an extremely sorry state. The Ghost Doctor's gaze was calm and she swept an unwavering glance at the director. There's no need for you to chase us away, we'll naturally leave. Only, if you want to harm my disciple today, don't blame me for disregarding our many years of cooperation. Two old men dressed in white robes stood in front of Yiqing Luo in a domineering and mighty manner. Their eyes were filled with disdain and mockery as they looked at the principal. The director hadn't even caught his breath when he heard the ghost doctor's warning. He was so angry that he had nowhere to vent his anger. Trash. A bunch of trash. All of you are siding with the two traitors of the Heavenly Academy, aren't you? Good. All of you scram for this dean. All of you get lost. The director was coughing as he roared and pushed the guards behind him. He waved his sleeve and pointed towards the students and masters who were crowding around. Chapter 2179. The students looked at the hysterical and malevolent-looking director, and hearing what he said, the anger in their hearts was ignited. These students were all 15 to 16 years old, and the oldest was 23 to 24 years old. They weren't considered as mature mentally. During this period of time, the crisis in the West Continent had erupted. They had been forced to stay in the Heavenly Academy by the director. On the surface, the director was doing it for their safety. But in actual fact, they were hostages. They couldn't leave the academy. They couldn't contact their own families. They had no idea what the outcome of the battle outside was. It was rumored that some students were worried about their families. They forced their way out of the academy. They secretly tried to escape from the academy. Those were all caught by the director. After that, they couldn't hear any news from those people anymore. The director said that those students wanted to leave and he sent them back to their families. But what was the truth? The students didn't want to guess and didn't dare to guess. However, these things had already planted a seed in the hearts of the students. Today they were dragged into the water by the director again and again for no rhyme or reason, being scolded and reprimanded. These hot-blooded youngsters' pent-up anger had reached its peak and immediately exploded uncontrollably. Go. Let's go. Heavenly Academy, do you really think that the current Heavenly Academy is still the old Heavenly Academy? If it wasn't for student Yiqing Luo in our academy, the Heavenly Academy would have been demolished long ago. To let someone like you become the director of the Heavenly Academy is to bring shame to the Heavenly Academy. What best academy, first academy, with an ungrateful director like you who thinks of ways to harm your own students? We can't afford to wait on you. The students' rage could no longer be held back. One by one, they tore off their uniforms and threw it on the ground as they were about to leave. The director was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood as his finger trembled as he pointed at the bunch of students who were frantically flinging off their uniforms. He almost fainted from anger. Amidst the chaotic atmosphere, the students were fighting to be the first to leave. A clear voice rang leisurely, "Leave? Why do you want to leave?" A young lady's unique, sweet and crisp voice was extremely recognizable. Upon hearing it, they knew that it was Yiqing Luo's voice. The students' footsteps halted as they turned back towards the direction of the voice. He saw Yiqing Luo's arms crossed as she walked step by step towards the direction of the director. Her steps were slow and graceful. Her red dress fluttered in the wind as she walked, like a blooming rose. A majestic and powerful aura spread out invisibly. In an instant, the entire training square was shaken. The Heavenly Academy is our academy. If anyone were to leave, it should be this. If the president who betrayed the Heavenly Academy leaves, why should we, the innocent students and teachers, leave? The girl chuckled, her posture languid and elegant. She raised her eyes and glanced at the students. Come back. The students were still seething with anger, their blood boiling, and it was a mess. But after the girl spoke, they all quietened down at the same time. No one refuted Yiqing Luo's words. They stopped in their tracks. What Yiqing Luo said was right. They were students of the Heavenly Academy. Why should they leave? Clearly, the one in the wrong was the principal. If they left, wouldn't that be giving the dean an advantage? Yiqing Luo, how dare you incite the students? Do you know soul manipulation? Are you controlling these students? Are you trying to destroy the Heavenly Academy? Chapter 2180. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she walked elegantly to the front of the director. Her charming eyes swept across the guards who were supporting the director. The guards felt as though their bodies were entangled by a cold, poisonous snake. The guards instinctively let go of the director's support as they uniformly retreated a few steps back. The director was originally pinched by old man Guiyu and his entire body was still limp. After that, he was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo that he vomited blood. Without the support of the guards, the director fell onto the ground in a sorry state. He was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth as his expression was sinister, totally without the usual dignified look. Are you all bewitched by this slut? The director supported his waist as he tried to stand up. But at the next moment, a small foot suddenly stepped on his back. The director gave a muffled groan as his body fell heavily onto the ground uncontrollably. That sinister face was forcefully stepped onto the ground as he ate a mouthful of dust. Not waiting for the director to fly into a rage, his body was suddenly lifted into the air and with a flip, he fell heavily onto the ground with all 4 feet facing the sky. The director cried out miserably. Yiqing Luo slowly walked closer as she looked down at him condescendingly. If you want to win the hearts of the people, then you have to first see if you treat them sincerely. A selfish director like you also wants to gain the support of the students? The director's face turned ashen from the humiliation, but there was really no one around to stop him. They just watched him being humiliated by a student. The director was fuming with anger as his eyes shot out in intense hatred. He slammed the ground as his body flipped over. Yiqing Luo, you're looking for death. He roared as he suddenly struck a palm towards the direction of the attack. That palm was filled with dense profound energy. It was filled with murderous intent. Yiqing Luo sneered as she was about to retaliate. Suddenly, an even more powerful profound energy blocked in front of her as it directly suppressed the director's palm wind. The director suffered a backlash as his body flew backwards and rolled onto the ground. He clutched his chest as he raised his head. He saw the heavenly profound palace's envoy slowly retracting the palm which he had waved earlier. His face, which was as thin as a match, was filled with a sinister and terrifying indifference. Dean Xian, this emissary is not here to see you being unreasonable here. The emissary's voice was very cold, and his tone revealed his disdain towards the dean. He paused for a moment as his vision shot towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo had said something very right. A selfish person like you is indeed not fit to be the director. The dean's face turned ashen and pale. The envoy didn't bother about the director as he spoke to Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, the reason why the hall master wants to meet you isn't because he has any ill intentions towards you, but to ask you a few questions. Even hall master doesn't know about this, how would I know? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Student Yiqing Luo, you must know. The messenger insisted. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked towards Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. Both of them looked at the emissary with vigilance. Seeing Yiqing Luo looking at them, Old Man Guiyu immediately went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo behind him. Go back and tell that whatever hall master, the person I'm protecting, is not someone he can meet whenever he wants. If there's any problem, come out and look for last Luo yourself. His words paused as he added another sentence. And it must be under the condition that I'm present. This protective look made Yiqing Luo's heart warm up. Chapter 2181. Last Luo. You don't know what kind of place the upper profound hall is, that is not a place for you to fool around. Old Man Guiyu understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words as he immediately suppressed his voice to persuade her. Yiqing Luo smiled, no matter, I'll be fine. Since when have you seen me doing something that I'm not confident of? She cherished her life very much. She wouldn't feel that she was in the sky profound stage and she could be that awesome. From the messenger's aura, Yiqing Luo indeed didn't feel any murderous intent. Moreover, when those 4 upper profound hall's guards came to capture her, she had noticed the messenger's expression. When the guards were attacking her, the emissary's eyes had always been fixed on her. The expression on his face was indeed worried if she was injured. The messenger was serious when he instructed the guards not to hurt her. So she could conclude that hall master wasn't here to find trouble. Since that hall master wanted to ask her questions, she would go and meet that hall master, to see what kind of place the upper profound hall was. Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor exchanged glances and immediately relaxed their arrogance. All right, go. If you're not back in 1 hour, we will inform the Imperial Palace and barge into the upper profound hall. Wasn't it a little too exaggerated? Yiqing Luo looked at the both of them as she warned the messenger. The messenger was originally high and mighty but was forced to bow down to the 2 old men. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards uncontrollably. Warmth spread in her heart. It was her fortune to have these 2 elders who cared about her and thought for her. She would never let Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor leave the Heavenly Academy. After the discussion, the two of them finally let Yiqing Luo leave with the messenger. Yiqing Luo looked at the disheveled and injured director as her long and narrow eyes rose slightly. Before she opened her mouth, the messenger beside her had already said, "Dean's action today is against the teacher's ethics. I represent the upper profound hall to inform Dean to stop whatever you are doing and go to the ancestral hall to reflect for 3 days." Director suddenly raised his head. "Miss Messenger, this can't be. There are many things in the academy, and if I'm not around the academy, there are many things to do in the academy. There are naturally these 2 seniors and many elders to help." The emissary left no room for discussion. 3 days from now, if the temple master thinks you can leave the ancestral hall, then we'll talk about it. The dean's face was ashen. He had even brought out the hall master. If he didn't obey, the palace master had every right to kill him. 3 days, in less than 3 days. He had been the dean for so many years. Even if he had to face the wall for 3 days, the academy would not be able to overturn the heavens. The emissary shot a glance behind him. The 2 guards from the upper mystic hall understood and stood on the left and right side of the dean. "Dean, please." At the entrance of the Shangshuan ancestral hall, Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor saw them off. When they reached the door, they stopped. If one entered the ancestral hall without permission, he would be punished by the ancestors of the Heavenly Academy. In fact, it was the backlash of the upper profound hall's spirit formation. Following the envoy, Zhang Xian entered the ancestral hall. The headmaster was assigned to the furthest corner of the ancestral hall. He knelt in front of the memorial tablets and copied the Book of Teacher's Virtues. When he saw Yiqing Luo following the envoy into the inner hall, his eyes were filled with hatred. Yiqing Luo totally disregarded him. 3 days, imprisoned for 3 days. Did he think that 3 days later, there would still be a place that belonged to him? Would she give him this chance? Chapter 2182. The messenger had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's expression right from the start. He was very interested in this girl who seemed to have everything under control, as if everything was under her control. He wanted to know what this young lady was thinking about. Her calmness. Was it because she was in control of everything? Or was it because she was simple-minded and didn't think about anything, so she wasn't afraid? Of course, from Yiqing Luo's temperament, the messenger chose to believe the former. But so far, he hadn't seen any special shining spot on Yiqing Luo. Until now. He saw a different expression on Yiqing Luo's face. What kind of smile was that? Crafty like a fox and extremely charming. He clearly knew that she must be plotting something in her heart. But he was unable to develop any sense of disgust. On the contrary, he felt that this young lady's craftiness was extremely terrifying. This was an extremely terrifying charisma. "Messenger keeps staring at me. Is there something on my face?" The young lady's smiling voice was heard by the side of his ear. The messenger suddenly regained his senses. In front of him was a radiant smiling face. Her face was devastatingly beautiful and peerless. The messenger's brows twitched as he hurriedly retracted his gaze. "I've long heard that student Yiqing Luo is devastatingly beautiful, so it's indeed so." Yiqing Luo smiled. "Even the messenger likes this look of mine, so I'm sure the hall lord will like it too." The messenger was stunned as he concealed the expression between his brows. He didn't say another word as he re-evaluated Yiqing Luo. This young lady was indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder she was able to attract the attention of the hall lord, to personally summon her. The messenger maintained his silence. Yiqing Luo didn't intentionally pursue further. She looked as though she was obediently following beside the messenger, but in actual fact, she had already drawn the route which she had taken into her mind as a map. After stepping into the inner hall, it was another long and dark corridor. Yiqing Luo had not expected that the ancestral hall, which seemed to be the smallest courtyard in Heavenly Academy, was actually so spacious. It was divided into several inner courtyards. After turning the long corridor, Yiqing Luo followed the messenger into a house at the end. Inside the house, it was dark and gloomy. And there wasn't anything placed, it was extremely spacious. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings and looked at the messenger in puzzlement. Not waiting for her to ask, the messenger had already walked to the front as his fingertips slashed across his wrist. A drop of blood dripped down. He quickly formed a hand seal. Following that, he turned his head towards Yiqing Luo. "Student Yiqing Luo, please hold on tight to me." When Yiqing Luo heard that, she immediately understood. This place is the reverse barrier, right? As she asked, she grabbed the sleeve of the messenger's robe. He followed the envoy into the room. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel her body brushing against something cold. This feeling was exactly the same as when he had passed through the reverse spirit formation last time. You know about the reverse enchantment? After passing through the enchantment, the envoy looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. There shouldn't be anyone in the Nirvana realm who knows about traditional barriers and reverse barriers. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Last time, when she pretended to be controlled and followed Pharaoh He to the base camp of the Dark Forces, she had experienced the reverse ward. Old Man Tsang had taught her before. The reverse spirit formation was actually a spirit formation similar to an illusion technique. Without the secret technique of combining with the reverse barrier, this room was just an ordinary black room. He used a secret technique to enter the room. It was the true hidden place after arriving at this room. Chapter 2183. Upper Profound Hall. Yiqing Luo sized up the surrounding environment. This upper profound hall was different from what she had imagined. Hidden in the ancestral hall was a powerhouse. Yiqing Luo thought that this was a powerhouse who hid in the dark and didn't dare to be seen. The upper profound hall would also be pitch black, eerie, and extremely terrifying. But this magnificent scene in front of her was brightly lit and extremely flourishing. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't imagine it. This was a scene which could be seen in an ancestral hall which was specially used to display memorial tablets. Student Yiqing Luo, this way please. The messenger saw Yiqing Luo looking left and right with her eyes filled with astonishment as his lips twitched. No matter how intelligent this young lady was. After all, she was only a 15-year-old child. Seeing such a splendid and magnificent hall, it was inevitable that she would reveal this kind of expression. Yiqing Luo's attention was on the surrounding scenery and didn't notice the messenger's thoughts. Of course, even if she noticed, she was too lazy to explain. If the upper profound hall's people treated her as an ordinary 15-year-old young lady to bluff, this was also quite good. She could even pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. She followed the messenger all the way. Along the way, this hall was all splendid and magnificent with a grand style. Yiqing Luo inexplicably thought of God Thief. If God Thief was around, he would definitely think of ways and means to move all the things here away. Thinking of God Thief's eyes shining, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out loud. What are you laughing at? The messenger saw Yiqing Luo laughing out of nowhere as he looked at her and asked. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met the messenger's gaze. Her eyeballs rolled as she changed the topic. Messenger, I'm thinking. Is it possible that every academy's ancestral hall is hiding a powerhouse like yours? What kind of powerhouse is Upper Profound Hall? The messenger looked at her in amusement. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she replied seriously, I feel that this should be like a controlling, restricting existence. The messenger became interested. Oh? Why do you say so? Yiqing Luo's slender brows arched. This is like Nirvana realm has 4 continents, and each continent not only has its own dynasty, it also has its own sect. It's like all the existences are mutually balancing and restraining each other. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo continued, let's take the simplest example. In our 4 major sects, each sect has a sect elder. This sect elder is equivalent to the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Hall, and is the existence that restrains and checks the Heavenly Academy. Aha! Student Yiqing Luo is indeed extraordinary. The envoy couldn't help but laughed out loud. This was the first time he had heard of such a saying. But it was undeniable that Yiqing Luo's guess was correct. Every academy did indeed have its own halls. The existence of the hall masters. It was the same as being an elder of a sect. It was all for the sake of restraining the dean and the elders. This was to prevent people with ulterior motives from using the academy to harm the balance of the Nirvana realm. The emissary did not deny it. Yiqing Luo knew that what she said was right. She chuckled softly. Her eyes no longer had the amazement when she first saw the magnificent palace. On the contrary, they were extremely calm and indifferent. Nirvana realm is merely the lowest grade realm, but it has troubled so many people from the upper realm to guard this place for decades, or even centuries. She met the messenger's eyes and suddenly laughed. You people from the upper realm really put in a lot of effort for Nirvana realm. The expression on the messenger's face changed slightly. Chapter 2184. Yiqing Luo didn't continue the topic. She took the lead and walked towards the front. The envoy's expression congealed slightly as he stared at Yiqing Luo's leisurely back view for some time before he took a step forward and followed up. This time round, the envoy's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with probing intent. There were several times when he wanted to ask Yiqing Luo how much she knew about the upper realm and Nirvana realm. But before he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo would always point to something by the side and ask him. Not long later, they had walked for about 2 joss sticks worth of time on the journey. The envoy stopped outside the inner hall as he stretched out his hand to stop Yiqing Luo. He saw the envoy rushing into the inner hall as he bowed slightly. "Hall Master, student Yiqing Luo is here." A deep and melodious voice rang in the hall. "Come in." That voice didn't sound old. It was a man's voice. The envoy took a step back as he stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo and spoke in a low voice. "Student Yiqing Luo, please." Looking at the tightly shut inner hall door, Yiqing Luo pointed to herself. "Am I going in alone? This is the hall master's bedroom and he doesn't allow anyone to go near his bedroom, so this envoy can only send you here." Bedroom, bedroom, bedroom? Was he sure he wasn't teasing her? What did this hall master mean? Meeting a 15-year-old young lady in his own bedroom? Didn't he say that no one was allowed to go near his bedroom? Then why did he still let her in? Seeing Yiqing Luo still in a daze, the envoy urged her in a low voice. "Student Yiqing Luo, hall master is waiting for you inside, why aren't you going in?" Yiqing Luo took a look at the bedroom door and looked at the envoy. "That? You don't have any guest hall, a hall in the meeting hall?" The envoy heard Yiqing Luo's implied meaning. His bright little eyes squinted into a slit as his shriveled lips cracked into a smile. "Student Yiqing Luo, please be assured, no matter how useless hall master is, he would not be so desperate as to lay his hands on a young lady. Moreover..." He slowly bent down and leaned towards Yiqing Luo as he lowered his voice. "Our hall master hates women." Yiqing Luo expressed that she had never met their hall master before, so who knew if his words were true or false. The emissary didn't want to waste any more time with her. He bowed deeply in the direction of the sleeping chamber before retreating. "Hey, why did you leave just like that? If you leave so decisively, I will be even more suspicious that your hall master is coveting my beauty, and you are working together to trick me." Yiqing Luo immediately shouted behind him. But after leaving the emissary, she didn't know how to use the reverse barrier fusion secret technique. Before he could catch up, the envoy's figure had already disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't even manage to grab the corner of his robe. "Lady Yi, you don't have to worry. You're still too young for me. I don't have the hobby of laying my hands on little girls." The deep voice of the hall master could be heard once again. "As for the matter of coveting your beauty, it's not up to me." Yiqing Luo. Not his turn? Did they have to take turns to peek at her beauty? She expressed that she didn't understand the hall master's words. "If Miss Yi doesn't wish to come in, then let's talk through the door." The hall master seemed as though he was compromising, but his words were filled with ridicule. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists. Let her stand at the door to accompany him to talk. Chapter 2185. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate anymore as she pushed open the bedroom door and walked in. The moment the bedroom door opened, Yiqing Luo felt a gush of extremely intense profound energy, like water ripples, following the outline of her figure, spreading outwards. She could clearly feel the flow of the airflow. She was slightly stunned as she squinted her eyes. She only had time to catch a trace of profound qi lingering in the air. Very quickly, it disappeared into thin air. "Las Luo." In her mind, Old Man Song's anxious voice suddenly rang. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she subconsciously responded, "Old Man Song, why did you come out? I couldn't sense you earlier until now. I finally got in touch with you. You are now." Old Man Song said anxiously. Suddenly his voice paused as he sensed Yiqing Luo's current location. "You? Where are you?" Yiqing Luo subconsciously narrated what had happened earlier in a concise and comprehensive manner. Unexpectedly, after entering the profound ancestral hall, her connection with Old Man Song was cut off. That meant to say, after entering the profound hall would suppress her mental power. This was like her in the 21st century, where her mental power was deliberately suppressed, unable to summon sacred beasts and unable to sense Old Man Song. It was the same logic. Why after entering the bedroom, the suppression of the profound hall on her mental power disappeared? Earlier when she pushed the door open, she felt the fluctuation of profound qi. It seemed to be the feeling of the enchantment. "Come in, Miss Yi." The man's voice seemed to be close to her ear. Yiqing Luo followed the voice and passed through the screen. The surroundings were decorated with 2 luminous pearls, extremely bright. It also lit up the sleeping quarters clearly. The style of the sleeping chamber was completely different from the golden splendor outside. In this bedroom, there was only a bed that was big enough for 3 people to roll around on, a wooden desk and a bookshelf filled with thousands of books, a 4-cornered mahogany tea table and 2 mahogany chairs. Other than that, there was nothing else. Simple, it couldn't be any simpler. A slender and handsome figure sat by the tea table, one hand holding the teapot, elegantly pouring tea. Yiqing Luo walked closer. The man in front of the table became even clearer. The man was wearing a loose bamboo-colored robe. He didn't have a belt around his waist, so it hung loosely on his body. It made his tall and slender figure look even more incomparably thin. The man's long black hair was untied. His face was like a crown of jade and he was extremely handsome. His eyes were like cold stars, flickering with a complicated light that no one could understand. He looked like a banished immortal, carefree, unrestrained, and extremely lazy, if one were to say that he was handsome. After seeing Dmo Xin Zhu Wu Xin, as well as Devil Class's pile of handsome boys. To be honest, the palace master's appearance was not particularly handsome. However, he had a unique temperament that no one could imitate. The palace master's bamboo robe fluttered as his slender fingers landed on the seat opposite him. "Miss Yi, please take a seat." Yiqing Luo walked over and sat opposite him. The hall master pushed a cup of tea over. "Have some tea." Yiqing Luo didn't say a word as her gaze sized up the hall master. She picked up the teacup, deep in thought. She was an alchemist herself, so she wasn't worried that the hall master would tamper with the tea. Moreover, the hall master had no need to do so. Chapter 2186. Third person? Yiqing Luo's hand paused. She squinted her eyes and released her senses. Other than this man who looked like an immortal, she didn't sense any other presence. She couldn't sense any presence, so there were only 2 results. 1. There was only her and hall master in this room. 2. The third person's ability surpassed her by more than 1 profound grade. Yiqing Luo could totally eliminate the first possibility. Old man Song wouldn't lie to her, nor would he joke about such things. Then there was only the second possibility. The third person's ability was definitely higher than her by 1 profound grade. That's right, profound grade. She was now an Earth profound grade cultivator. That third person's profound grade was the lowest, which was above Earth profound, which was a legend. Legend had it that he would turn into 15 grades. Virtuous profound grade cultivator. Such a powerful person. Why would he hide in a corner of this bedroom? Did Hall Master know about it or not? What's the matter? Hall Master raised his eyes as his gaze deepened. Yiqing Luo put down the teacup. "I'm here not to ask for a cup of tea. What's the matter that Hall Master is looking for me for? Please tell me clearly." She didn't intentionally mention the third person in the room, but pretended not to notice anything as she spoke calmly. "Envoy forgot to tell you earlier, Heavenly Academy's Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor have already said that if I don't return safely from the Ancestral Hall within a short period of time, they will immediately bring their men in charge into the Ancestral Hall." Her pink lips rose into a radiant smile. "I believe Hall Master doesn't wish for the enchantment which you have meticulously set up to be broken. And the peace which Hall Master has been wanting for a long time, and the days of not bothering about worldly affairs, will also come to an end." Every single word she said was extremely incisive. It sounded as though she was thinking for Heavenly Profound Palace, for Hall Master. But obviously she was threatening Hall Master. Upon hearing this, a calm smile appeared on the Hall leader's handsome face. His cold eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo's radiant smile. After looking at each other for some time, he opened his mouth. "You're observant indeed. There's no need to observe at all. As long as you use your brain a little, you'll be able to think of it." Yiqing Luo smiled. Hall Lord is the balance force of the Heavenly Academy, but what the director had done for so many years, Hall Lord should be clear about it. The palace master raised his teacup and took a sip. Then he smiled faintly and said, "Are you complaining to me?" "No." Yiqing Luo wasn't that senseless to complain about the director. "Hall Master is looking for me. It shouldn't be because of the director's matter, right?" The Temple Lord leaned lazily on the back of the soft chair. "The Heavenly Academy has produced an outstanding student and is hailed as the heroine of the West Continent and even the Nirvana realm. As the Temple Lord of the Heavenly Palace, I naturally want to meet you, the heroine." Yiqing Luo was not alarmed by the favor or humiliation as she looked at him with a smile. Let me remind Hall Master that your time is running out. The Palace Master's hand froze. His peripheral vision glanced at Yiqing Luo, as though he was investigating the truth of Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she returned a radiant smile. As expected of a heroine. With such a temperament, she is indeed worthy of the title, heroine. The Palace Master laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo could tell. He was ridiculing her. Ridiculing her for thinking too highly of herself. Chapter 2187. Upper Profound Palace Lord's laughter slowly came to a stop. His apathetic gaze, this time, was seriously scrutinizing the young lady in front of him. It was simply unimaginable. Such a young lady. She was actually able to deal with him so calmly under his intentionally flamboyant aura. This young lady wasn't afraid of him. Not afraid of his identity. Even though she knew that his ability was way above hers. What gave her the confidence to be so sure that he wouldn't hurt her? If Yiqing Luo knew what the Palace Lord was thinking about, she would definitely roll her eyes at the Palace Lord. Whatever imposing aura, it wouldn't scare her at all. One must know that under Dmo Xian's powerful aura, she directly held him hostage and laid her hands on him. What else was there for her to be afraid of? After a moment of silence, the Palace Lord finally gave up and put down the teacup in his hand. Miss Yi, you're really an unfathomable young lady. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Palace Lord, don't fall in love with me. Don't forget that you said that you're not after my beauty. Ahaha. The Palace Lord laughed out once again. He looked at Yiqing Luo's eyes and said word by word, Miss Yi, do you want to know your background? Background? Yiqing Luo's smile froze. What do you mean? Regarding your background, this Palace Lord happens to know a little. The Palace Lord propped his chin leisurely as he looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. After this Palace Lord found out about your background, I really wanted to tell you about this, so I specially summoned you to Upper Profound Palace. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She stared at the Palace Lord's face, trying to see if what he said was true or false. But she totally couldn't tell what the Palace Lord's expression meant. Her background? The Palace Lord knew about her background? What on earth did he know that made him specially appear in Heavenly Academy, requesting to meet her in public? The Palace Lord squinted his cold eyes as he looked deeply at her and said word by word, In your body, there is a divine phoenix profound heart jade, am I right? His words made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. On the surface, she pretended to be puzzled as she fluttered her long eyelashes. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade? What is that? I won't tell you what it is. The Palace Master chuckled. In short, according to this Profound Heart Jade, you can find your birth parents. He paused for a moment, then suddenly propped himself up and pressed his fingers against his chin, closing the distance between them. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, if you want to find your biological parents, you have to go to the upper realm. Yiqing Luo frowned. What are you trying to say? I'm just reminding you that as a human from the lower realm, if you want to go to the upper realm, your strength must be promoted to the peak of the third level of the Sage Profound Realm and above. Only then can the Historian of Heaven's Path verify the stability of your profound rank, then the Historian of Heaven's Path can bring you to the upper realm. The Palace Master smiled again. However, with your current aptitude, if you're lucky, 5 or 10 years would be possible for you to reach the Sage Profound Realm. If you're unlucky, it might be 50 or 100 years. So, what's the second way? Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him. Since the Palace Master had already made it so clear, there was no need for her to hide her intention of going to the upper realm. But, she absolutely could not let anyone know about the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. The second way. Chapter 2188. Yiqing Luo's back stiffened. The third person in the room, the one whom she couldn't detect, was right behind her? She suppressed the urge to turn her head and examine, not revealing her inner panic on her face. The only thing she could confirm was that the Hall Master and the third person definitely knew each other. But why didn't the third person show himself? Why must he hide in the room? Whether he was a friend or foe, she wasn't sure. She could only pretend to be calm, trying her best not to alert the enemy. Miss Yi need not be nervous. The second method which I mentioned may be difficult for ordinary people, but if it's Miss Yi, it should be. As compared to the first method, it should be easier. Hall Master smiled slightly. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly. This Hall Master of Upper Profound Palace's observational ability was indeed incredible. She was extremely confident in the subject of camouflage, but Hall Master could still see some clues. He could tell that she was nervous at that moment. The powerhouses outside of Nirvana Realm were so powerful that it made her excited. It also made her have the thought of rushing to the upper realm. Even if there wasn't any background, it pointed to the upper realm. She would definitely head to the upper realm. Because the power in Nirvana Realm, even if she stood on the peak, she would not be satisfied. What she wanted was to become even stronger. The road to the strong was endless. Only to limit herself to Nirvana Realm. That would be too unambitious. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, as she completely calmed down her emotions in her heart. Her lips curled upwards as she smiled sweetly. Hall Master has been keeping me in suspense. After all, this is a secret which basically no one in the entire Nirvana Realm knows about. Hall Master propped his chin as he sized Yiqing Luo up. So what does Hall Master want? He had been keeping her in suspense because he wanted to get the corresponding exchange item from her. Which was the real reason why Hall Master specially summoned her to Upper Profound Palace. Hall Master looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, "What I want is very simple. After saying this, you will sit in this bedroom alone." 1 hour later. Alone? Sit for 1 hour? Was there something wrong with this Hall Master's brain? What kind of request was this? Or does the Palace Master have some other scheme? Or perhaps, the Palace Master was giving the third person in the room a chance to make a move on her? You don't have to worry, this Palace Master will not seek trouble. Although the Ghost Doctor and Guiyu are not as powerful as this Palace Master, but, if we really fight, this Palace Master will not be able to gain any advantage. Hall Master seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's guess as he added another sentence. As for the motive, you don't need to ask any further. Even if she asked, he might not answer. An hour? Counting it, there was still an hour before the agreed time with Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. Wasn't it just sitting here by himself? It was a good opportunity for her to see what the Palace Master's motive was. She nodded. All right. The Hall Master revealed a smile, as though he had long guessed that Yiqing Luo would agree. He did not beat around the bush and said bluntly, "There is another way, and that is to collect the 4 Sacred Beast Pearls. Once you have collected all the Sacred Beast Pearls, you will be able to open the portal to the upper realm." Sacred Beast Pearl? Yiqing Luo recalled the 2 growing sacred beasts in her pet space. This Sacred Beast Pearl? How do I get it? Could it be? This Sacred Beast Pearl was hidden in the 4 great Sacred Beasts' bodies? She had to kill the Sacred Beasts before she could obtain the Sacred Beast Pearl. Chapter 2189. Hall Master who saw through Yiqing Luo's imagination. This young lady's imagination was simply too wild. When did he say that he wanted to kill the Sacred Beast to obtain the Sacred Beast bead? Hall Master's lips twitched slightly as he patiently tried his best to finish his words. As for where the Sacred Beast bead is and how to obtain it, there's someone who can answer you. Oh. Yiqing Luo frowned. Hall Master remained silent for a moment and suddenly asked another topic. Miss Yi, Devil class which you are in seems to be the champion of this year's interclass competition, right? Yes. Hall Master smiled. In the interclass competition, the class who obtains the champion will have the chance to enter the class of gods to undergo their special training. What has this got to do with the Sacred Beast bead? Yiqing Luo expressed that Hall Master's train of thought floated too fast and she couldn't keep up. Hall Master mysteriously leaned back on the soft chair. Of course it has something to do with it. Whatever you want to know, there's a student in the class of gods who knows it best. Furthermore, she also knows the precise location of the Sacred Beast bead. Who is it? Yiqing Luo somehow felt that she was being led by the nose. Go there and you'll naturally know. After Hall Master finished his words, he suddenly stood up. A loose, bamboo-colored robe rolled down like a waterfall from 1,000 miles away. Alright, the second method this Hall Master has already told you, then. Now please abide by the request that you've promised me and sit here alone. This Hall Master still has some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Yiqing Luo? What was he trying to do? She heaved a heavy sigh as she raised her head and looked at him seriously. Hall Master, aren't you afraid that I'll tear down your bedroom? You won't have that chance and you won't have that time. Hall Master calmly threw down this sentence and really walked out of the bedroom without any intention of turning back. No chance? No time? Where did his confidence come from? If she really wanted to tear down this bedroom, Could he stop her? But Hallmaster's words obviously didn't mean this. The chance and time that he mentioned must have another meaning. In her mind, a thought formed. In the bedroom there was a deathly silence. Yiqing Luo restrained the deep look in her eyes as she stared at the untouched teacup on the table. Her consciousness was calling out to Old Man Song. Old Man Song, is there anyone else in the bedroom other than me? Old Man Song quickly replied, yes, the third person is still in the room. As expected, a cold glint flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly as she placed one hand on the mahogany table, her index finger lightly clasped together. The rhythmic sound was like one thunderclap after another, striking down. This strange atmosphere continued for a while. The girl's unique and sweet voice echoed in the sleeping chamber. Sir, I don't have much time left. If you insist on hiding in the dark and remain silent, then please let me leave. Her voice reverberated faintly in the empty space. Ethereal, clear and pleasant to the ear. There was still silence in the bedroom. Yiqing Luo's fingers paused. Then, she stood up without hesitation and walked towards the entrance of the sleeping chambers. Whoosh! A gust of air current struck and blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. The air current landed on the ground beside Yiqing Luo's feet and instantly the ground cracked. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes to look at the broken hole as her lips twitched in ridicule. Can't hold it in anymore? In the bedroom the air was fluctuating. Yiqing Luo's naked eye could clearly see the profound chi ripples in the air. Like waves of turbulent waves. Chapter 2190. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes but her legs didn't move. Yiqing Luo, how did you know? I'm here. The youth's cold voice had a hint of evil in it. This familiar voice made Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffen slightly. She frowned and quickly turned around. Behind him stood a young man in a crimson robe. His extraordinarily handsome face was the kind of unique charm that could attract all eyes the moment he appeared. But when the line of sight fell on his body, his entire body was emitting an ice-cold aura, causing others to not dare to approach him, to not dare to profane him. His ink-like hair was tied loosely with a silk ribbon of the same color as the one he was wearing. Occasionally, a few strands of hair would fall in front of his forehead, but it didn't diminish his elegance in the slightest. Instead, it softened the cold lines on his face. Looking at it, it was no longer so cold that it made people feel like they were digging into their bones. When Yiqing Luo saw the young man's face clearly, the expression on her face turned slightly chilly. Noticing the change in Yiqing Luo's expression, the young man's brows creased tightly. He could tell that Yiqing Luo didn't want to see him. The young man's aura also froze. A cold glint flashed in his pitch-black eagle eyes, as if he wanted to freeze her completely. He stared at Yiqing Luo and suddenly lifted his leg, walking towards her. The crimson robe rolled along with his footsteps. Like raging flames. It looked like a moving block of ice walking on fire. This was obviously out of place, but on him, there wasn't any sense of incongruity at all, making Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, Zhu Wuxin, why are you here? Wasn't this person in front of him Zhu Wuxian? Why was he here? He was the third person in the bedroom? What was his relationship with the hall master? It was me. I asked Archer to borrow the identity of the upper profound hall to summon you here. Zhu Wuxian didn't deny it as his serene cold eyes looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. Archer? That was the name of the hall master, right? Calling him so intimately, he and the palace master were indeed good friends. What exactly do you want to do? Yiqing Luo didn't like the feeling of being schemed against. She had already made it clear to Zhu Wuxin previously at the Three Springs sect. Why was Zhu Wuxin still pestering him? To actually use such a method, Zhu Wuxian closed in step by step as he walked right in front of Yiqing Luo, as the tip of his shoe touched the tip of her shoe. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she lowered her eyes to look at his foot which was pressing against the tip of her shoe. Zhu Wuxian, don't you feel that you're very childish? She did not retreat in fright as Zhu Wuxin had expected. Instead she was expressionless. No, to be more accurate, she was looking up at him with a hint of annoyance. The distance between them was so close that they could still feel each other's breath. The two red robes also overlapped with each other, appearing to be a perfect fit. All Zhu Wuxin had to do was take a step forward. His kiss could fall on her face. Their eyes met, both calm. I don't think so. Zhu Wuxin's cold voice was emotionless. Yiqing Luo sneered, then do you think there's any meaning in your pestering behavior? Yes, he answered calmly. Yiqing Luo, what's the point? Interesting person, he seemed to be the only one. Zhu Wuxian's deep gaze was fixed on her as his voice was chilly. I've said this before, unless you die, otherwise I will not let you off. He enunciated each and every word clearly. Chapter 2191. Yiqing Luo only had one thought in her mind right now. Damn it, this Zhu Wuxian was really sick. And it was the kind that was seriously sick. Zhu Wuxian indifferently bent over as his scorching hot breath splashed onto Yiqing Luo's face with a swoosh. It was different from Dmo Xian's elegant sandalwood fragrance. Zhu Wuxian's body had an extremely light plum fragrance. The smell wasn't unpleasant. But Yiqing Luo, who wasn't used to other men getting so close to her, couldn't help but frown. She raised her hand and flipped her palm, holding the glower flame fan's handle as she pressed it against Zhu Wuxian's chest. Step back. Zhu Wuxian's brows drooped as he squinted at that exquisite fan handle on his chest. Following that, he continued to press down on her expressionlessly. An unfamiliar man's presence instantly enveloped her entire body. Yiqing Luo's eyes congealed. You think I don't dare to make a move on you? Yiqing Luo, you won't. Zhu Wuxian's cold tone was extremely certain as he spoke. His deep eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's furious face without blinking. I know you won't. Yiqing Luo's belly full of anger, not knowing why when she met Zhu Wuxian's eyes, it inexplicably dissipated. She lowered her head as her slender fingers clenched slightly. Her curly long lashes, under her charming eyes, projected an arc-shaped shadow. Why was his gaze so firm? As though he understood her very well. But Yiqing Luo had to admit. What he said was right. She wouldn't really make a move on Zhu Wuxian. No matter if it was on account of the original owner Xiaoqing Luo and Zhu Wuxian's relationship. And it was on account of the few times he had risked his life to save her. She owed Zhu Wuxian too many favors. If she really made a move on Zhu Wuxian, she wouldn't be a human. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep breath and took the lead to retreat a few steps, widening the distance between her and Zhu Wuxian. What on earth do you want? To make you fall in love with me again. Zhu Wuxian replied calmly. Yiqing Luo was dumbstruck. After some time she regained her senses and met Zhu Wuxian's extremely resolute gaze as she spoke seriously. I've never loved you before, not to mention again. Yes. Zhu Wuxian stared at her, as stubborn as a child. Yiqing Luo, no matter how you deny it, the matter of you and I pledging to be married privately is a fact. In his mind, the scene of Xiaoqing Luo and Zhu Wuxian, privately pledging to be together, appeared. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. At that time, Qing Luo was only 10 years old. What private pledge of marriage? It didn't count at all. Was Chu Wuxin abducting an underage child? In her time, he would be sentenced. Outside, you will always be accompanied by the dark guards arranged by that guy. My words will be relayed to that guy through the dark guards' mouths. I want to be alone with you, just the two of us. We won't be disturbed and we won't be watched. Zhu Wuxin stared at her with a rare seriousness in his eyes. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Was he talking about Tang Beiyuan? Had Zhu Wuxin already discovered Tang Beiyuan's existence in the Yuqi clan's courtyard? He knew that Tang Beiyuan would pass his news to Dmo Xian. Was that why he chose to leave? Did his words mean that? Tang Beiyuan had no way to follow him into the upper profound hall? There's only you and me here. Zhu Wuxian's lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Chapter 2192. Yiqing Luo. He was certain that his good friend Che wasn't cheating his teammate? Such a blind idea. Zhu Wuxian still felt that it was useful? Have a seat. Zhu Wuxian saw Yiqing Luo still standing at the original spot, her features twitching as he opened his mouth. I will try my best to be gentle. If you don't like anything, I will change. Grabbed a big grass? Had Zhu Wuxian taken the wrong medicine? Just a moment ago he was still arrogant and cold, feeling that he wasn't childish and felt that his actions were very interesting. The next moment he had turned into a warm man? Although his expression was still as cold as ice, without a single warm feeling. But to be able to say such words like, if you don't like it, I will change. To Zhu Wuxian, this was absolutely considered as warm. Yiqing Luo, I asked you to sit down. Zhu Wuxian thought that he was warm, to the extent that he couldn't bear to look at her. But that woman was still standing there in a daze, not even looking at him. After being bellowed by Zhu Wuxin, Yiqing Luo suddenly regained her senses as she turned her head to look at Zhu Wuxin. Her body instinctively sat back on the soft chair. "Drink some tea." Zhu Wuxin frowned as he grabbed a teacup from the table and poured a cup of tea for Yiqing Luo. He even conveniently took away the teacup which was previously poured by the hall master. Yiqing Luo expressed that this way of his, would it really make a lady have a good impression towards him? Anyway, she definitely wouldn't. Yiqing Luo once again felt that. Upper Profound Palace Hall Master was a scumbag who had the ability to cheat his teammates. Outside the door, a certain hall master who was ridiculed by Yiqing Luo felt his nose itching. He took a look at the tightly shut bedroom door and with a flash, he was already one hall away from the bedroom. After he was sure that he was far enough away, the palace master leaned against a glazed pillar and sneezed a few times in a row. He rubbed his nose as he had a faint feeling of sneezing. "Looks like that lass is scolding you." Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice was heard from behind. When the hall master heard that, his brows rose as he laughed. "This hall master thought that you had already gone back. You tricked Wu Xian like this. Wu Xian knew, how would she treat you?" The woman smiled faintly. The palace master's cold eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm obviously helping him. Otherwise, how would he have the chance to be alone with Lady Yi?" The woman chuckled, but there was no meaning hidden in her laughter. The palace master glanced in the direction of the sleeping quarters and stretched. "Don't worry, I won't favor one and discriminate against the other. I helped Wuxing trick Miss Yi into coming here, so naturally I'll help you pass on what you want her to know." Hearing this, the woman's eyes flickered. She didn't stay any longer. With a turn, her figure merged into the air. "Hey, you threw it away after using it? You didn't even say a word of thanks. Don't run. My sleeping chamber has been robbed and I'm bored out of my mind." No matter how the palace master shouted behind him, he only had time to see a streak of icy blue flowing light turn into many afterimages and disappear in a flash. Inside the bedroom, the two of them sat facing each other, speechless, staring at each other. After a moment later, Yiqing Luo couldn't take it anymore. "Zhu Wuxian, if there's nothing else, I'm going back to the academy." "No way, I haven't finished drinking my tea." Seeing Yiqing Luo's impatient look, Zhu Wuxian's deep eyes dimmed slightly. Chapter 2193. No way. Zhu Wuxian rejected her decisively as he looked at her without blinking. "It's not time yet, I like to stay with you." His eyes were still as cold as ever. But Yiqing Luo could sense it acutely. Under the icy coldness there were hidden thick feelings. Her heart trembled fiercely. His cold attitude had also softened slightly. Zhu Wuxian was serious towards her. Zhu Wuxian saw that she wasn't sitting down, so he stood up as well. "Yiqing Luo, don't be unhappy, you originally belonged to me," Zhu Wuxian said calmly as his deep eyes gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo. He looked at Yiqing Luo for some time. Suddenly he raised his hand, wiping away the tea stains on the corner of her lips. The man's calloused fingertips brushed past her lips. This action shocked Yiqing Luo so much that she kept retreating. Her expression changed slightly as she used one hand to cover her skin which had been touched. "Zhu Wuxian, I've already told you many times. The past matters can only be in the past is the past. Moreover, who I belong to, it's not up to you to decide." Zhu Wuxian's hand hung in midair. His fingers still had remnants of a lady's soft touch. His fingers trembled as he closed them slightly. By his ear was a young lady's sullen voice. Zhu Wuxian's expression didn't change as he looked at her indifferently. "Zhu Wuxian, when I was 10 years old, I admit that I was very happy when I interacted with you. But that was merely happiness as a friend. Yiqing Luo was once the trash 7th Missy. After my mother passed away, there were only Ziling and Xiaoyu left in my life. You appeared at that time, becoming the 4th person in my life who treated me sincerely." Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip tightly, as her charming eyes locked onto Zhu Wuxian. Today she must make things clear to Zhu Wuxian. No matter if Zhu Wuxian could hear it or not, she still had to say what needed to be said. "Zhu Wuxian, under that kind of situation the 10-year-old me towards you was just a kinship, a redeeming feeling. These have nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with sex. As for you, it's just because in so many years of bloody killings, it's rare to meet a little girl who is willing to take care of you, talk to you, and even show you the warmest smile. This is just, Your lonely heart playing tricks on you. What moved you was the me at that time, the warmth I gave you, not me. This was his opinion as a bystander of the memory. Actually, the two of us are very similar. Our tragic childhood caused us to want to give up everything to exchange for the slightest bit of warmth. We thought it was love. But in reality, even if it wasn't the other party, we would still be moved by this warmth. Zhu Wuxin for each other, the best way is to be friends and family, isn't it? Zhu Wuxin's gaze gradually deepened. His eyes, which were like deep pools, were swirling with bottomless whirlpools. Beside his ear, he could hear her soft voice. He could tell that Yiqing Luo was extremely serious when she said these words. Friends, family. Zhu Wuxin laughed out loud. His cold voice and laughter seemed to be stained with ice. As he smiled, the coldness seeped into her heart bit by bit. His smile made Yiqing Luo stop her following words. But Yiqing Luo, I don't need friends, nor do I need family. Zhu Wuxin's tranquil eyes didn't have a single ripple. Chapter 2194. His smile made Yiqing Luo's heart tighten abruptly. She could tell. He was serious. Other than death, she would not be able to escape from his entanglement. Yiqing Luo stared at Zhu Wuxian as her long eyelashes fanned. Her pink lips moved slightly as she wanted to speak. Zhu Wuxian had already laughed without any hesitation. Yiqing Luo, who do you think you are? Do you think that you can guess everyone's thoughts? Who gave you the confidence to think that you are 100% able to guess my thoughts accurately? His words paused. Zhu Wuxian suddenly laughed lightly. His frosty brows curved into a curve from smiling. But that smile made one's heart turn cold. Or perhaps only by lying to yourself in this way will you feel that you don't have that much guilt towards me? This sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder, exploding in Yiqing Luo's heart. Her body suddenly stiffened. But, Yiqing Luo, you don't let me live well, so how can I possibly let you put down the past, put down the promise you had made to me, and put down the guilt towards me? Zhu Wuxian's frozen eyes surged with a sliver of madness. Both his hands were propped on the mahogany table as he stared at Yiqing Luo's slightly astonished eyes, as he laughed word by word. You're not me, so how can you be so certain that I don't love you? Then I'm telling you very seriously now. I want you to become my wife and want to spend the rest of my life with you. This thought, ever since the first time I met you 5 years ago till now. I have never stopped having this thought. Yiqing Luo's fingers unconsciously curled up. Her little actions were all seen by Zhu Wuxian. His dark eyes stared intently at her eyes. Why are you flustered? Can't make up a whole set of reasons anymore? Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled slightly as she stared at Zhu Wuxian's firm and deep black eyes. She didn't know what expression to use to deal with him. Not flustered. It wasn't that she couldn't continue with the main reason. But Zhu Wuxin's attitude caused her to lose confidence in her confident conjecture. Zhu Wuxian was smiling. His words were extremely ear-piercing. But Yiqing Luo could tell that in his smile, that thick bitterness. Zhu Wuxin was not someone who liked to smile. He had laughed countless times in front of her today. But that smile made one's heart ache. Moreover, although his words were meant to hurt her. But she could hear it. His words were full of thorns and they were his true thoughts. She had always felt that the Zhu Wuxian back then was only greedy for the warmth given by Xiaoqing Luo. But now, she couldn't be sure and even doubted her own guess. After some time Yiqing Luo finally found her voice and it was slightly hoarse. Zhu Wuxian, in my heart. It's filled with one person and it can't contain anyone else. If possible, we can become friends, brothers and even relatives. Even if you force me to stay by your side, I can't give you the love you want. There are many ways to feel warmth and there are also many kinds of feelings. Other than love, I can give you all kinds of feelings. She looked at Zhu Wuxin, her voice still hoarse. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Zhu Wuxin, you and I can become very good friends. Zhu Wuxin did not speak. He quietly waited for her to finish her words. Her face was reflected in his deep eyes. He could clearly see the sincerity in her eyes. Friends, brothers, relatives, what she gave was really a huge temptation. Chapter 2195. Silence lasted for a long time. Zhu Wuxian seemed to be hesitating. Yiqing Luo gazed deeply at him. Her eyes were filled with sincerity and tranquility. Finally the man moved. His slender fingers which were resting on the table moved slightly. There was no joy or anger on the expression on his face, no emotions at all. A pair of icy cold eyes, quiet and serene as though it was a whirlpool. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely for no reason. As though there was a thin needle, slowly piercing through her heart. Yiqing Luo's hands which were hanging by her sides, unknowingly curled up a little. Zhu Wuxian slowly stood up. Even though they were separated by a wooden table, Yiqing Luo could clearly sense the powerful pressure which Zhu Wuxian was emitting. Yiqing Luo, you know very well that what I want is not a friend. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he narrowed his icy cold eyes. His speed was very slow and his tone was very indifferent. His thin lips raised slightly, revealing an extremely shallow but incomparably elegant smile. Yiqing Luo's spine turned cold as she clenched her fists tightly, easing the uneasiness which was surging from the bottom of her heart as she looked at him. I don't need a friend, especially. I don't need a female friend. Zhu Wuxian laughed. His laughter was very light and his laughter was extremely ethereal. Yiqing Luo, you are destined to be either enemies or lovers with me. Was he forcing her to choose the way they interacted in the future? They were either enemies or lovers. Her love could not tolerate any sand in it. She loved Diamo Xian wholeheartedly and no one else could step in. So she could only choose to become enemies with Zhu Wuxian? Why? Must Zhu Wuxian be so stubborn? Why must he stubbornly try to find back the past? Trying to force someone who would not love him to be together with him. In this way, even if his forcefulness succeeded, would he really feel warm? Yiqing Luo was unable to understand Zhu Wuxian's stubbornness. Wasn't a friend better than an enemy? I will give you time to consider. Zhu Wuxian's eyes were filled with frost as he spoke word by word without any emotions. The next time we meet, the relationship between us. You decide. Yiqing Luo clenched her wide sleeves tightly. Time's up, you can leave now. Zhu Wuxian didn't stay any longer. He walked toward the tightly shut door of the sleeping chamber. He seemed to be running away from something. His pace was very fast. Not long later he was standing at the entrance of the hall. He raised his hand to open the door. A young girl's voice suddenly came from behind him. Zhu Wuxian. She was calling his name. Something seemed to be spreading in Zhu Wuxian's heart. It was a kind of panic, a kind of fear. It was a strange feeling that he couldn't get used to. He was afraid that Yiqing Luo would say out her answer now. The panicking Yiqing Luo didn't even give him the last chance between them. He wanted to lift his leg and leave this sleeping chamber. However, the sound of her calling his name kept echoing in his ears. His body was stiff, unable to move. Zhu Wuxian, no matter what you think in your heart, I've always treated you as my friend. You saved me, you saved little you for me and Linger's kindness, I remember it all clearly. As long as you don't lay a hand on the people around me, I will always treat you as my best friend. In my heart there will always be a place for you. Yiqing Luo stared at his back as she spoke in a hoarse voice. She paused for a moment. Seeing that Zhu Wuxian didn't turn around, but didn't leave the sleeping chamber directly. Chapter 2196. I don't deny the existence of that period of warmth in the past, because that is a memory that belongs to the both of us. You're a very, very intelligent person and you understand my character. And I believe that if I'm a fickle woman, to be able to love him and love you again, I believe that you will not have any other thoughts towards me. Zhu Wuxian's back was extremely tensed. The icy cold pupils and the swirl in his eyes started to churn ferociously. He used a huge amount of energy before he could control his own emotions. The hands under his sleeves were clenched tightly into fists as green veins popped out. He shut his eyes and bit by bit, he suppressed that pent-up feeling in his chest. Suddenly, a crimson figure turned into an afterimage as he charged towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was still waiting for Zhu Wuxian's reply. One shouldn't procrastinate over matters of the heart. She loved Diamo Xian and would only be together with him. No matter who or what, there was nothing that could stop her from loving Diamo Xian. So she didn't need any time to consider. Because there was no need to consider. But the next moment, Yiqing Luo's nose was filled with a rich plum fragrance. Before she could even react, her petite body was tightly held by an arm. His sturdy chest, along with an earth-shattering frost aura, directly pressed down on her. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she was slightly stunned as she raised her hand to support her chest which was pressing down. Zhu Wuxian. In this aspect, women seemed to be innately unable to win against men. The man's strength was extremely huge. She couldn't struggle free at all. That icy cold chi seeped into her skin bit by bit. The familiar yet extremely unfamiliar plum fragrance cold chi enveloped her entire body. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale as she tried her best to calm herself down. Zhu Wuxia wouldn't really do anything to her. Zhu Wuxia wouldn't do anything to her if she wasn't willing. She believed in Zhu Wuxian's character and also believed that Zhu Wuxian valued little Qing Luo. But before Yiqing Luo could brainwash herself to calm down, along with a breath without thinking, it directly pressed down on her with icy shards. Yiqing Luo realized something as her pupils instantly expanded. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly opened up as it swiftly attacked Zhu Wuxian. She had only just begun to set sail. It was directly grabbed by Zhu Wuxian's palm. With a flip of his hand, the devouring flame fan landed in Zhu Wuxian's hand. Although the attack failed. But at least she stopped Zhu Wuxian from forcefully kissing her. Holding her breath, she struggled to free herself from his grasp. However, Zhu Wuxian tightened his grip. His frosty eyes stared coldly at her face as he said in a sinister voice, "You hate me to this extent. I only kissed you once and you want my life. You call this treating me as a friend?" Yiqing Luo was feeling slightly shocked, guessing what kind of realm Zhu Wuxian's ability was at. Her perception was unable to detect Zhu Wuxian's presence. Her speed was not even half of Zhu Wuxian's. If Zhu Wuxian really wanted to do something to her, she wouldn't even be able to resist. He was actually this strong. He was still shocked by Zhu Wuxian's strength. Suddenly Zhu Wuxian's mocking voice rang in his ears. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated again. Why did she want his life? Her attack was only to stop him from acting recklessly. She didn't even use 10% of her strength all right. Friends wouldn't do such a thing. Moreover, I didn't want. Before she could say the words, your life. Chapter 2197. Either you die or I die. Yiqing Luo's body turned cold. She remained silent for a moment and raised her head, meeting his emotionless eyes. Are you serious? Perhaps it was because of the oppressive atmosphere. Or perhaps it was because of the confrontation between the both of them as it stirred up a hurricane. The bedchamber, which was originally brightly illuminated by the luminous pearls, suddenly dimmed down. The entire sleeping chamber became dark. Zhu Wuxian's face in the darkness couldn't be seen clearly, but Yiqing Luo could feel the coldness in his eyes. He was serious. His stubbornness, his persistence. He had already set his mind on her. Indeed, in the darkness, the man's gloomy and icy cold voice was heard. Right? I'll tell you seriously, you and I will never be a couple. Yiqing Luo's voice gradually turned cold. Her gaze was calm as it met Zhu Wuxian's eyes. But the enemy that you mentioned, or you die or I die, I will not accept it. Saying that, Yiqing Luo directly raised her hand and pushed the man who was just inches away. Other than Dmo Xian's approach, she was unable to adapt to any other man. Men, of course. In her eyes, those little kids in devil class weren't considered as men. Yiqing Luo walked towards the bedroom door. The man behind her didn't stop her. Yiqing Luo opened the door. The light outside the door lit up the entire bedroom. A tall figure swayed and fell down from the door. Hey, why didn't you say anything when you opened the door? The man grumbled a few words as his tall figure staggered. He finally managed to regain his footing. Brushing his black hair, he raised his head and saw two pairs of eyes, staring straight at him. Cough cough, this hall master is just passing by. What kind of expression is that? Don't believe this hall master? The man couldn't take the pressure under the two pairs of eyes. This hall master is absolutely not eavesdropping. Yiqing Luo took a look at the hall master as she calmly interrupted his explanation. How to leave this place? You're leaving now? Hall master's cold eyes looked at Zhu Wuxian for a moment, but seeing that he had no reaction, he could only look at Yiqing Luo. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Don't you want to stay a little longer? Yiqing Luo kept silent. The palace master frowned and looked at Zhu Wuxian. He realized that there was still no reaction from that fellow. He suddenly felt very tired. Why does it feel like the eunuch is anxious when the emperor is not? He racked his brains trying to think of a way. Miss Yi, regarding the method to go to the upper realm, I can still explain it to you in detail, but actually, the class of God, you know less than me. It's almost time. Yiqing Luo calmly interrupted his words. If Hall Master isn't worried that Master Ghost Doctor and Teacher Guiyu would barge in, I don't mind staying behind to listen to Hall Master's detailed explanation of the method to head to the upper realm. The Palace Master helplessly glared at Zhu Wuxia. That guy lowered his head, his whole body shrouded in a haze. The Hall Master was so anxious that he wanted to kick him. The woman you want to woo doesn't know how to keep her? Didn't they see that he couldn't hold them back any longer? Send her out. In the end, these were the words that the Temple Master had been waiting for. The Palace Master racked his brains. His persona of a banished immortal collapsed into Dubai. However, the person who caused him to collapse his persona just casually mentioned 4 words. The Palace Master's state of mind instantly exploded. Fine, this is what you said, don't regret it. Saying that, he directly summoned the envoy, asking him to send Yiqing Luo back. Yiqing Luo stood at the entrance of the hall. Chapter 2198. Her pink lips moved slightly and her voice was cold. Chu Wuxin, if you change your mind, come and find me. After saying that, he followed behind the emissary and left without looking back. When Yiqing Luo's figure followed the emissary and disappeared outside the enchantment. Inside the bedroom, the youth who had been standing in the haze all this time suddenly seemed to have lost all his hostility, and his whole body went limp on the ground. The Palace Master was startled by the loud dong. He immediately walked to Zhu Wuxin's side and supported him with one hand. The rays of light shone through the open doors of the hall, clearly illuminating the young man's dispirited and helpless expression, as well as his bewilderment and helplessness. However, in the next instant, Zhu Wuxian's expression had already recovered its icy coldness. He waved his arm and pushed the Temple Master away. Get out. I say, Wuxin, that woman doesn't know what's good for her. If you really like her, just snatch her. Why do you have to make yourself look like this? The Palace Master's expression was cold. This was the first time he had seen such an expression on Zhu Wuxin's face. I said get out. Zhu Wuxin's tone became heavier. An icy cold intent flowed in the air. The Palace Master stared at Zhu Wuxin. The expression on his face became more and more unsightly. After a while he snorted coldly, fine. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'll just let you fend for yourself here. What the hell am I trying to persuade you for? With a bang, the palace door was slammed shut. The young man who was standing fell to the ground again. He leaned against a glass pillar and raised his head slightly. His ice-cold eyes seemed to have a dense watery glow. In his mind, the scenes of what happened with Yiqing Luo in the broken courtyard of the Three Springs sect kept circling around. Following that, it was the current Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's sweet-loving scene. It was Yiqing Luo's cold rejection again, that unwavering look. There seemed to be something in his heart that was tearing him apart. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. What Yiqing Luo said wasn't wrong. He had fallen in love with Yiqing Luo and was persistent towards her. It was the warmth she gave him when he first met her. What he longed for was her warmth. But he had been stubborn for a long time. This greed had been deeply engraved in the depths of his soul. He only wanted Yiqing Luo. Madly wanting Yiqing Luo. He was actually very clear about this. Yiqing Luo would never leave Dmo Xian. She would never give her love to him. However, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. He wanted to find that tiny chance. He could not bear to let go. Friends, family. Chu Wuxin muttered Yiqing Luo's words softly. He chuckled softly. Indeed, as a friend, as a brother, as a relative. Only then would he be able to stay by Yiqing Luo's side. Only then could he truly feel the warmth that he wanted. He knew that towards her brothers, Yiqing Luo had always been willing to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames without hesitation. But he didn't want to. He just wanted to be her one and only. He didn't want to be one of her brothers, friends, or family. He would rather, using this identity as her only special enemy, to maintain a relationship with her. He was also unwilling, when those so-called brothers, friends, and relatives. But, such a special existence. What he lost. Perhaps it was the warmth that he wanted from Yiqing Luo. Based on what, he wanted to be in so much pain in his past memories. But she could be blissful in Dmo Xian's arms? She belonged to him. His, Chu Wuxian's hand was trembling slightly. Chapter 2199. Yiqing Luo had just walked out of the ancestral hall. He was startled by the scene in front of him. There were at least 300 to 400 people gathered at the entrance of the ancestral hall. Standing right in front were the youths from Devil class. Their faces were solemn as they gripped their weapons tightly, ready to charge into the ancestral hall at any time. And at the forefront of the crowd, Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor were also ready. Yunduan and the other elders tried to persuade him, sweating profusely. After seeing Yiqing Luo's figure, the few elders seemed as though they had seen their savior as they rushed up. "Student Yiqing Luo, it's good that you're out, it's good that you're out. Quickly come and persuade Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu, the both of them are about to tear down the ancestral hall." Before they could surround their savior, one by one their bodies were blown away by the hurricane. Following that, two figures surrounded Yiqing Luo tightly. "Lass, are you all right? Did the people from the upper profound hall do anything to you?" Old Man Guiyu grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand and sized her up. "Whatever grievances you have suffered, just tell me, I will go in and seek justice for you." Ghost Doctor didn't say a word as he grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist, helping to take her pulse. Looking at the two people surrounding him with concern, he felt a chill run down his spine. The unhappiness that had arisen from Zhu Wuxia just now vanished like smoke in an instant. She raised her pink lips, revealing a bright smile, and gave them a big hug. "I'm fine, I just went in to chat with the hall master of the upper profound palace." Yiqing Luo's eyes curved, confirming that Yiqing Luo had indeed not suffered any injuries. Old Man Guiyu was relieved and gently patted Yiqing Luo's delicate shoulder. The minute he let go of Yiqing Luo, Old Man Guiyu looked at Ghost Doctor beside him and his expression suddenly changed as he grabbed onto Yiqing Luo's wrist and refused to let go. "I say, lass, you're too biased. Why did you hug that old man first before hugging me? I asked you to be my disciple, but you became that old geezer's disciple. Now you're hugging him first." "Yiqing Luo? Teacher Guiyu, are you sure you're not stirring up trouble?" Old Man Guiyu didn't care what Yiqing Luo was thinking, directly pulled her into his arms. "No. Since you're so biased, I still want to hug you again. I want to hug you one more time than that smelly old man." "Yiqing Luo, Teacher Guiyu, aren't you worried about ruining your reputation by behaving so shamelessly in front of so many students?" The surrounding students were speechless. In any case, Teacher Guiyu had never cared about his image. It was very normal for him to act like a deranged person. "What did Hall Master look for you to discuss?" Ghost Doctor looked at Yiqing Luo indifferently as he asked. Yiqing Luo finally struggled free from Old Man Guiyu's arms, and when she heard Ghost Doctor's question, she immediately ran over to him, seeking for protection. Just as she was about to answer, she caught a glimpse of Yun Xiang, who was watching her nervously from the corner of her eye. A trace of craftiness flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes, talking about the recent situation in the academy. Academy? If the upper profound palace wanted to understand the situation, did they need to specially ask their students? But after seeing the craftiness in Yiqing Luo's eyes, Ghost Doctor nodded his head as he cooperated and asked, "What else did Hall Master say?" "He said a lot regarding the academy's future development." Yiqing Luo looked at the elders beside her with deep meaning. "Hall Master said that regarding the director's matter, he is clear about it. Regarding this matter, he will give a corresponding measure." The elders' expressions congealed. Some of them revealed a joyous expression. Chapter 2200. Yiqing Luo's words obviously conveyed a message. Heavenly Profound Palace was extremely dissatisfied with the director. Heavenly Profound Palace wanted to abolish the director. Then, the new director could be chosen from the few elders. This news naturally made those elders wild with joy. But Yun Xiang was very clear. He and Yiqing Luo had always been at odds. The hall master would discuss with Yiqing Luo about the academy's matters and the matter of abolishing the director. Apparently his relationship with Yiqing Luo was very good. The director's position would never belong to him. And he had always been standing on the director's side, doing things for him. If anything happened to the director, he would be the first to be implicated. He knew that once Yiqing Luo returned to the academy, his life would become a mess. Looking at Yun Xiang's gloomy face, Yiqing Luo laughed secretly. The hall master looked for her because of Zhu Wuxia. It had nothing to do with the Heavenly Academy. But she could make use of the Heavenly Profound Palace's power to bully and target that director. Coincidentally, this was also a good excuse to oust the dean from his position and help someone else to take his place. Anyway, the Heavenly Profound Palace would absolutely not come out to explain. She was just making things up. Oh yes, Elder Yun Yun. Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly fell on Yun Yun. Yun Yun smiled slightly and asked kindly, "What's the matter?" "The hall master specially asked me about this year's interclass competition and asked you to arrange for our devil class students to go to the class of gods for special training." Yiqing Luo recalled those words from the hall master. Regarding her background. Regarding the method to go to the upper realm. Although the hall master didn't say it clearly, she could tell that the second method to go to the upper realm was somewhat troublesome and might require a lot of time. She had to enter the class of gods as soon as possible and find the student mentioned by the hall master to ask for the details of the second method, so that she could be prepared in advance. As for the abolishment of the director and the support of the new director, take it slow, no rush. Yiqing Luo's smile was as bright as a flower, blooming even more brilliantly. Yun Yun nodded. "The academy has already arranged for this matter, just waiting for you to return to the devil class." He looked at the group of youngsters behind Yiqing Luo. But the class of gods is after all the class of gods, the Heavenly Academy's proudest class. Although student Yiqing Luo had performed outstandingly in the interclass competition, his performance in the Southern Continent's Academy Exchange Meet was outstanding. But rules are after all rules. Student Yiqing Luo doesn't have any objections, right? No. Yiqing Luo replied simply. Yun Duan was very satisfied with Yiqing Luo's understanding of the big picture. "Then will student Yiqing Luo please select 10 devil class students to follow you into the class of gods to undergo special training. Tomorrow I will personally lead you to the class of gods." After exchanging some pleasantries, Yunduan called for the other elders to disperse the crowd and let them return to class. Yiqing Luo also called for her bunch of students, as they headed back towards the direction of devil class. Ghost Doctor and Guiyu followed Yiqing Luo back to devil class. As for both of them leaving the Heavenly Academy, everyone pretended as if nothing had happened. Some people were happy while others were sad. Sitting in the small room in the ancestral hall, the dean copied the book of teacher virtues for the 13th time. The resentment towards Yiqing Luo in his heart had risen to the peak. Chapter 2201. The president's hand which was holding the pen tightened. His gaze congealed as it swept past the dark and eerie ancestral hall. He didn't see any shadow. The president had lived for more than half his life, and in order to secure his position, his hands were stained with blood. To hear such a strange sound in the ancestral hall, the president's hair stood on its end. He frowned as he surveyed the surroundings. President? President? That sound rang again, as though it was right in front of him. The president's expression changed slightly as he suddenly stood up from the side of the short table. "Who?" he bellowed. "Who's playing tricks? Get out here right now." It's me, President." That voice rang by the side of his ear again. The president felt as though his sleeve was being tugged by something. He suddenly waved it away. "Who's there?" A loud dong sound was heard. The sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground was extremely loud. In front of the memorial tablet, the lighted candle illuminated the object which had fallen onto the ground clearly. The object which was lying on the ground was a lump of white. That lump of white thing moved bit by bit. With great difficulty he raised his head. The president was stunned. Elder Yun Xiang? The dim candlelight, although it wasn't clear. But the president recognized the figure in front of him at one glance. "President, it's me. Don't make any noise, I'm going to be discovered." Yun Xiang rubbed his body in pain as he struggled to prop himself up. "I used the secret art of burrowing into the ground and escaped to the ancestral hall, so I didn't trigger the backlash from the ancestral hall's enchantment." Earlier when he was tortured by the president, he didn't know if it had attracted the attention of the upper profound hall. "What are you here for?" The president's expression congealed as he revealed an unhappy expression. "I'm here to send news to the president." Yun Xiang could tell that the president was unhappy as he snorted in disdain, but on the surface, he had to display a wholehearted expression. "News?" The president squinted his sinister eyes. "What news?" "Yiqing Luo, that little slut. She came out from the upper profound hall." Yun Xiang gritted his teeth. The president's expression suddenly turned green and purple. "She? How could she possibly come out from the upper profound hall? Didn't the upper profound hall? Didn't they want to detain her and make her stay in the upper profound hall?" Upper profound hall. The mysterious existence of the Heavenly Academy. Even he, the head of the Ascendant Shen Hall, had only seen those from the Ascendant Shen Hall twice. People from the Upper Shen Palace. Compared to the dark forces, they were even more terrifying. Such a mysterious and powerful force. Looking for Yiqing Luo, wasn't it to detain Yiqing Luo, or to get something from Yiqing Luo? No matter what the reason was. Based on Yiqing Luo's arrogant character, he would definitely die in the Upper Shen Hall. However, she actually walked out from the Upper Profound Hall? That's right. Not only did she leave the Upper Mysterious Hall unscathed, it is said that she even brought back the Hall Master's orders. Yun Xiang saw Director's expression starting to turn ugly, and he struck while the iron was hot as he told Director everything which he had heard from Yiqing Luo. The more the Dean heard, the uglier his expression became. After Yun Xiang finished speaking, he suddenly waved his palm and slammed it on the ground. A huge pit appeared around his palm. Director's facial features were sinister as his veins popped out. Yiqing Luo. That bitch. She's talking nonsense. How could the Upper Profound Hall possibly interfere in the Heavenly Academy's matters? If the Upper Profound Hall really interfered in the Academy's matters, to meddle in the Dean's matters. For so many years, he had been following beside the Dark Forces and working for the Dark Forces, so the Upper Profound Hall had long taken action against him. Chapter 2202. This must be Yiqing Luo's nonsense. She wanted to use the Profound Palace to pull him down. Director, what should we do? Yun Xiang and the director thought of the same thing. Yun Xiang felt the same way too. How could things be so coincidental? Why would the Lord of the Profound Palace specially look for Yiqing Luo to ask about the Heavenly Academy? Not to mention whether the Profound Palace would pay so much attention to the Heavenly Academy. Even if they really wanted to ask about the situation of the Heavenly Academy, then the one. If it was not Grand Elder Yun Yun, then it should be the President of the Faculty Council. No matter what, it couldn't be Yiqing Luo. Yun Xiang, the only one I can trust is you. This Dean will absolutely not let that bitch oust this Dean. The director grabbed Yun Xiang's shoulder. You help me keep an eye on that slut, see who she wants to promote to be the Dean. Then tell this matter to the President of the Faculty Council, Si Yen Mu. President Si? Yun Xiang was stunned. He is just a student, tell him. You don't need to know why. In short, as long as she is sure who she wants to promote as the Dean, tell Si Yen Mu. Si Yen Mu will think of a way for me. The director's face was gloomy, his tone was sinister. As long as we get through these 3 days, when I get out, everything will be settled. Yun Xiang looked at the director's confident expression, although he was curious about the relationship between Si Yen Mu and the director, but he still nodded obediently and replied, Director, don't worry, I will keep an eye on Yiqing Luo. The Dean calmed his heart and looked at Yun Xiang. With a smile on his face, he patted Yun Xiang's shoulder heavily and said, Yun Xiang, as long as I can keep my position as the Dean, I will definitely uphold justice for you as the first elder. Yun Xiang's eyes lit up, his face was filled with joy. Yun Yun had been pressing on his head for so many years. And every time he would put on a nice guy look, constantly stopping any decision he made. If the Grand Elder became him, he could trample on Yun Yun fiercely. A sharp glint flashed past Yun Xiang's eyes. He smiled and bowed to the director. I am willing to serve the Dean till my death. The two looked at each other and laughed softly. In the dark night, no one noticed that a petite figure in red was leaning leisurely against a wooden pillar at the entrance of the ancestral hall. The moonlight seemed to coat the girl with a layer of silver brilliance. It made the young girl look like a fairy that had descended from the heavens. Her lips curled into a teasing smile as she stared at the ancestral hall with a faint smile. Everything that was said in the ancestral hall was clearly heard by her. He had to admit that the Heavenly Dean had some brains to be able to be the Dean for so many years. At the very least, he had guessed correctly that she had used the Upper Profound Hall to scheme against him. However, so what if he guessed correctly? He was trapped in the ancestral hall, and his reputation had plummeted. What kind of storm could he set off in 3 days? 3 days, it could change many things. Looking for Si Yen Mu for help? The girl sneered. His figure suddenly seemed to melt into the air bit by bit, disappearing into thin air. The next day, Yiqing Luo led the 10 students she had chosen, and under the guidance of Yun Duan, they headed towards the class of gods to report. Just as he walked out of the devil class courtyard, then he was surrounded by a large group of students from different classes. This made the students of the devil class feel overwhelmed by the favor. One must know that in the past, no matter where they appeared, they would be treated with disdain by the other students, or even directly humiliated by them. Although later on they won the championship in the interclass competition, and there were some people who supported them. Chapter 2203. But after this school's exchange meeting, after the misfortune in the West Continent, the students towards these young boys and girls in Devil class, all admired them from the bottom of their hearts. What they admired. Not only the Devil class's ability, it was also the spirit and faith that they had passed on. These youngsters were no longer the ones whom they mocked and ridiculed in the past. They relied on their own strength, persevered in the training, using their strong willpower, to create a miracle that belonged to them. All these left a deep impression in the hearts of the students. It also gave the students a strong belief. They wanted to change themselves. They wanted to become strong. They wanted to not be looked down upon by others. Then they would rely on their own efforts, their own willpower, their own confidence. In each and every failure, reflect on themselves, break through themselves. Create a miracle that belonged to them. These students who were once called trash had done it. Then they, the elite students who were selected by the Heavenly Academy, possessed a much stronger innate talent than the youngsters in Devil class. They would definitely be able to do it, to become stronger. A place where ability reigned supreme. Ability was the best way to conquer people's hearts. Under the respectful escort of a bunch of students, the Devil class students were sent to the entrance of the class of God's courtyard. Yun Duan stopped in his tracks and looked at Yiqing Luo amiably. "Student Yiqing Luo, this is the class of gods. Please lead the students in." "Elder Yun Duan is not going in?" Yiqing Luo looked curiously at this place which the Heavenly Academy regarded as the God Institute. From the looks of it, there was no special difference from their Devil class courtyard. The exterior design, decor, style, were exactly the same as the current Devil class courtyard which had been cleaned up. The only difference was, it was the plaque above the courtyard. Written in flamboyant calligraphy, were the words Class of Gods. Class of Gods is a very special existence in the Heavenly Academy. It's similar to the Heavenly Hall. If there's no urgent matter, not only the elders, even the dean cannot enter. Yun Duan explained. Can I still come out during the special training? Yiqing Luo asked again. Of course you can, as long as the special training assigned by the Class of Gods Master is completed, you can leave the Class of Gods anytime. Yun Duan seemed to see through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. You can also return to Devil class anytime. Yiqing Luo let out a sigh of relief. If he couldn't leave the God class after entering. As for the dean's matters, she could not interfere. What an interesting game. It would be too boring if he couldn't interfere. Then we'll go in first. Yiqing Luo looked at the wide-open courtyard door of the I class, and it was filled with a vast expanse of white rays, unable to see the scene inside clearly. Cloud smiled and nodded. The 11 people from the Devil class stepped into the courtyard of the Class of Gods one after another. When the last person disappeared into the white light, the courtyard door, which had been opened wide, suddenly closed. The surrounding students exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes were filled with envy as they pointed at the yard of the Class of God and discussed animatedly. Behind the crowd, Yun Xiang, who was dressed in a white robe, stared gloomily at Yiqing Luo and the others who had entered the Class of Gods, as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. The special training for the Class of Gods lasted for a month. In this 1 month, Yiqing Luo probably didn't have the energy to find trouble with the director. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity together with Si Yenmu, to make use of Yiqing Luo to go to the profound hall, deliberately fabricate the news that she wanted to abolish the director, and spread it throughout the academy. Chapter 2204. When Yiqing Luo and the rest entered the Class of Gods, everyone immediately felt a ripple-like feeling envelop their bodies. The few of them sucked in a breath of cold air as they instinctively moved closer to Yiqing Luo's direction as they released their senses vigilantly. That feeling of rippling water slowly spread out from Yiqing Luo's silhouette. Yiqing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. When she entered the hall master's bedroom in the upper profound hall, she had felt this kind of airflow feeling. This is a high-grade enchantment. Old Man Song explained in her mind, this kind of enchantment can only be created by cultivators with profound cultivation, at least sky profound 8th grade and above. Your cultivation is too low, so when you pass through this kind of high-grade enchantment, you will feel the fluctuation of the enchantment. High-grade enchantment? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. What's the difference between this and Feng Ling's enchantment? Old Man Song replied, in Nirvana realm, Feng Ling's grade of enchantment master is not bad, and she is very talented in enchantment. But the enchantment and one's own profound energy are inseparable. No matter how powerful her enchantment is, your profound grade is above hers. Although her enchantment can trap you, but it won't affect you too much. In other words, class of God's enchantment, not only could it trap her, it would also affect her. Old Man Song saw that she didn't speak for a long time, so he persuaded, you don't need to mind it, didn't that elder said earlier, as long as you complete the training mission, you can leave the class of gods anytime. Amen? Yiqing Luo responded. Enchantment. No wonder it's the high class of gods, this courtyard's entrance, even has an enchantment. Xiao Jin clicked his tongue. We also have an array. Yen Xiaoyi snorted in her eyes, no class could be compared to their devil class. Let's not talk about this for now, the most important thing now is to find the academy that we are going to. Long Yunzhan's cold voice rang. The 10 over people surveyed the surroundings and all kept silent. In their imagination, after entering the class of gods, they would be dazzled by the splendor, gold and jade splendor, the high-class atmosphere. But who knew? After they entered the class of gods, it was a vast expanse of whiteness in front of them. If the few of them were a little further away, that meant that he couldn't see the other party at all. It turned out that when they entered the gates of the class of gods courtyard, the vast expanse of whiteness wasn't created by the class of gods to act mysterious. It was true, a vast expanse of whiteness. He could not see the road ahead, nor could he see the road behind. What the hell is this place? There's not even a guide. Is this how the class of gods treats its students? Baiming Lulu frowned in displeasure. Class of gods has never treated the students of the Heavenly Academy as their classmates. Tong Ziqing sneered. Indeed. In the Heavenly Academy, the class of gods was a legendary existence. How could the students of the class of gods care about the other students? Yes. I've asked around before coming here. And Rupin lowered her voice and whispered, the instructors of the class of God are experts from the upper realm. Upper realm? The youths widened their eyes in astonishment. A person from the upper realm coming to the Nirvana realm to be a teacher, isn't that destroying the balance of the Nirvana realm? Chapter 2205. People from the upper realm head to the lower realm to guide the extremely talented cultivators, which is a common occurrence in the upper realm, because they are nurturing their realm's future elites. Hearing Xiao Jin's explanation, Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. Which is to say, Nirvana realm as a lower realm, all those who are eliminated by the upper realm will stay in the lower realm while those who are chosen by the upper realm will be nurtured to their satisfaction and brought back to the upper realm? Xiao Jin's thin lips curled into a ridiculing smile. Right, this is what those sanctimonious hypocrites from the upper realm say. To the upper realm and other realms. The Nirvana realm was an abandoned place. And this kind of abandoned place, if there were one or two good breeds, they would first nurture them for a period of time and see if they could be brought back to their realm. No wonder the students from the class of God were spread to be so miraculous. Upper realm hypocrites? Jinzi, how do you know the people from the upper realm said such things? And Ruopan heard Xiao Jin's words and sensed something different. Right, and it sounds like Jinzi is very familiar with the upper realm. Beiming Lulu nodded in agreement. Dan Baishi also nodded. Jinzi, why are you so familiar with the upper realm's matters? Quickly tell us, do you know anyone from the upper realm? Xiao Jin's expression changed greatly from being questioned. He hurriedly hid behind his wife. Yen Xiaoyi couldn't wait to strangle Xiao Jin to death. This was obviously Xiao Jin's own fault and he actually hid behind her. But Xiao Jin was the descendant of the Huangfu family from the heaven realm of the upper realm. It had to be kept a secret. It wasn't that they didn't trust their own brother. But this kind of matter, the fewer people who knew, the safer it would be. Just as the couple was racking their brains, thinking of how to avoid this question, Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her arm. Stop fooling around, smell carefully, do you smell anything? The few who were fooling around immediately restrained their expressions. The few of them sniffed seriously and shook their heads. No. Wait. Beiming Lulu cried out, I think I smell it. What do you smell? The other students asked curiously. Beiming Lulu looked at Yiqing Luo with uncertainty. I smell? The smell of pills. Medicinal pills? The students were puzzled. They moved their noses and sniffed for a long time, but they didn't smell any medicinal pills. Yiqing Luo nodded. Yes, it's the smell of medicinal pills. When Baiming Lu appeared, she immediately smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. Yiqing Luo took a look at the 10 people beside her. Since we can't find the way, then let's follow the smell of the medicinal pills. As long as we can see a figure, then we will be able to find the academy. The 10 of them had no objections. Yiqing Luo and Baiming Lu used their noses to lead the way. The 11 people walked for about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. The white mist of immortal qi in the surroundings gradually faded. They could vaguely see a large door in front of them that seemed to be rippling in the white mist. It was getting closer. Everyone could clearly see that it was indeed a large door. There was also a huge stone statue of a phoenix lying in front of the door, ready to take flight. The feathers of the fiery red phoenix shone with red light. It looked very lifelike. At first glance, it was somewhat similar to her family's Qi Yan. Qing Luo looked behind the stone statue. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.